All right, so this is the early Israelite curse inscription found. Early Israelite curse inscription found on Mount Ebal. Right? So anybody knows what Mount Ebal is? Shaqua. Abadia. That's good.
That's that. I remember.
That's Mount Ebal.
That was where Joshua went.
Right. Right. So get that real quick in Revelation. Let's read that real fast.
This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 16. And the earth helped the woman.
And the earth helped the woman. So that's archaeology. That's all of these people coming out with these things that is not only validating the scriptures, but validating that the Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans of Negro and Indian descent are the 12 tribes of Israel. Go ahead.
And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood.
And swallowed up the flood. Shaquat, what's the flood? Read it again.
And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth.
Deception.
There you go. Exactly.
What does it mean when the earth opened up its mouth? Her mouth.
Yeah.
Uncovering.
Make sure you speak a little. You know what I'm saying?
Earth opening up her mouth is uncovering. And y'all have spoke on it already. Like artifacts, antiquities. Bringing forth this truth.
A better word would be archaeological discoveries.
Archaeological
excavations. Anybody know what an excavation is? Stepping up, yeah.
Okay. I know what an excavation is.
No, I'm saying y'all. Anybody know what an excavation is? Right. So, it's important to also follow up on this news. I think that this is great news. That this is gold that was struck. It's better than gold. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't make me feel any more faithful than what I already believe is true.
Right.
But it just brings more life to what we believe.
Thanks. Thank you. What happened? No, I'm talking about the archaeology. Oh.
You'll be surprised how much money Esau put forth for those excavations.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like,
read the title what you're saying again.
Early Israelite curse inscription found on Mount Ebal. So
I know what it is.
So all ancient Near East cultures, right? Just to give a little bit of historical background, used to do things like curse tablets. That was something that was like a contract, right? So you'll make a contract with a certain king or even vassal kings, and if you broke this contract, they would put curses upon you, right? Well, our contract was with YAHLAHAYANAWA. So get Joshua real quick, and then I'm going to read a little bit of this article.
And I want to bring it up to how serious this is. When you hear me?
No, I hear you.
When we were younger kids, when we were in elementary school, every morning, what did we do? The Pledge of Allegiance. We said, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, right? And to the republic for which it stands, right? So that was something we were pledging as children, right? So it's no different than when they find these societies that we also about to break out. It's no different than an understanding of this is capital punishment, right? This is 40 years of jail, right? It's you actually falling into the confines, making a pledge of who you are, making an ally with, you know what I'm saying? Alleged what's the word I'm looking for? Making an allegiance with, excuse me. So we made an allegiance as a people with the Most High. Right? Go ahead, I just wanted to.
Get Joshua 8 and 30. Go ahead.
This is Joshua chapter 8, verse 30.
Go ahead.
Then Joshua built an altar unto the Lord God of Israel in Mount Ebal.
So what happened in the 1980s? What was his name? PANAH? The archaeologist.
Zerto. Adam Zerto.
Yeah, Adam Zerta or something like that. Right?
I think it's Zerto.
Something like that. Right. So this dude was an atheist, kind of like Zondervan, right? It's the Zondervan family. So he was an atheist, and he was actually digging things up because he wanted to disprove the scriptures, kind of like Israel Finkelstein that wrote the Bible Unearthed, which actually proved the Bible. You know what I'm saying? That's why they kind of discredit him a lot, because his history is very pseudo. But anyway, this dude dug up 2 altars, and he said one has to be the original altar because it dates back older, and the other one is a recommemoration of the older altar when they came back to the land, right? So he found this and said, yo, and started reading the Bible while he's doing this excavation, this archaeological dig, and the people around him was like, bro, why are you reading that? He said, because the Bible's right here. This has to be true. And he became a Christian, of course, right? Now you get years down the line. Stripling, that's his name, right, Adawan?
Yeah, Scott Stripling.
Scott Stripling, he is fighting for rights to actually even go to this site and look for certain things, right? So he finally gets permission, and between 2015 and 2019, he's using what is it? Wind and water?
Wet sifting.
Wet sifting and dry sifting, right? Which is blowing wind and water on certain of the dump sites, right? So it's the stuff that they were throwing away from the excavation. And through him doing that, he found this cursed tablet. As soon as he picked it up, they knew what it was, because they found stuff like this all over the ancient world. So when they picked it up, they said, yo, this is the cursed tablet, right? Get Deuteronomy real quick. Deuteronomy, you know what I want, right? 11 and 26?
29.
Start at 26. Start at 26.
Verse 20.
I'm saying 26 for a reason.
Verse 29. Before I said before you this day, Deuteronomy chapter 11 and verse 26.
Go ahead.
Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day, and the curse if you will not obey the commandments of the Lord your God.
So this is the context of it, right? Go ahead.
But turn aside out of the way, which I command you this day, to go after other gods which ye have not known.
Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, when the Lord thy God hath brought thee in unto the land, whither thou goest to possess it, that thou shalt put the blessing upon Mount Gerizim.
So the blessing went on Mount Gerizim. So 6 tribes go to Mount Gerizim and they do the blessing here, right? Read.
And the curse upon Mount Ebal.
And the curse upon Mount Ebal. That's why this cursed tablet was there. It's bringing the Bible to life.
Thank you.
Now, a lot of our history, we wrote ancient scrolls and things of that nature on animal skin. That's why it decayed over time, and that's why the scribes were very important, right? Most of the scribes were Levites. That's why the scribes were very important, because they're the ones that copied it word for word on another thing, and they had complete people go over it, and if there was one thing wrong, they burned it.
We don't play that.
That's what happened, right? But there's also ancient archaeology that showed us putting things on lead with a metal pen, right? Which is also in the scriptures. You know what I want, Barak?
For
With the lead tablet.
what's up?
Nah, not Deuteronomy. That's another one though. We could go there first. Let's go there first. That's a good one. I was gonna go there second. Let's go there first.
27 and 4.
Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 27 and verse 4.
Go ahead.
Therefore it shall be when ye be gone over Jordan, that ye shall set up these stones which I command you in this day in Mount Ebal, and thou shalt plaister them with plaister. And there shalt thou build an altar unto the Lord thy God, an altar of stones. Thou shalt not lift up any iron tool upon it. Thou shalt build.
So this was unhewn stone. Keep reading.
Thou shalt build the altar of the Lord thy God of whole stones, and thou shalt offer burnt offerings thereon unto the Lord thy God.
That's it on that?
Yep.
That's not what I was looking for. Let's go to Job 19 and 23. There's another one in Deuteronomy that talks about writing the law upon the stones. Forget what that is, where that is. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm talking about the one in Deuteronomy. To 27, if you keep reading. All right, come. It's all right. Let's get Job 19 and 23.
This is Job chapter 19, verse 23. Oh, that my words were now written. Oh, that they were printed in a book.
Go ahead.
That they were graven with an iron pen.
They were graven with an iron pen. Go ahead.
And lead in the rock forever.
And lead in the rock forever. Well, this cursed tablet is made on lead, and they also found the iron pen. This is in the Bible, man. This is what we did. This is our history. Now it says, inscribed on a tablet of the Aegean lead, which is lead from Greece, right? Because the ancient Minoans and the ancient Etruscans were very seafaring people, right? They are to this day. That's the damn Polynesians and Aboriginal Australians and the Samoans and all them people. You know what I'm saying? They're seafaring people. It says, the curse in Proto-Canaanite was a legal document, says team that deciphered it using high-tech scanners. Why is Proto-Canaanite important?
I'll pay out if you can send the article to him.
I'm gonna send it to you right now. Why is Proto-Canaanite language important to this artifact?
I mentioned it in our phone call.
Go ahead, Barack. Break it down.
Proto-Sinaitic and Proto-Canaanite, depending on the region that the parent to Paleo-Hebrew is found in, is the ancestor to Hebrew in the pictographic language.
Exactly. It's the oldest language on earth. The only thing older would be also known as cave paintings. Well, if you look at Proto-Canaanite, it's cave paintings. That's exactly what it is. It's a literal man, it's a literal ox, it's a literal eye, a literal stream signifying a river. That's what it all signified. A literal seed with a tail at the end signifying sperm. These were letters that they were writing down. That's why when you look at cave paintings, they'd be like, it's just cave. That's a story. And that's where the Paleo-Hebrew, it eventually evolved into that. Tom? So this shows that this took place literally right after the Exodus, because that's what we were writing in Egypt. That's why the hieroglyphics is the way the hieroglyphics is, because we helped influence the hieroglyphic language. Tom? All right, I'm gonna read a little bit more of this, and then you can start your lesson out. I got you. I'm gonna just jump to key parts. If the dating of the tablet to the late Bronze Age, the 14th and 13th century BCE is accurate, it is the earliest such tablet by a century or two. So this is the earliest tablet of a cursed tablet that they found known right now. They were using things like certain other cursed tablets from ancient Assyria, so on and so forth, to say, you see, the Hebrews copied from this. So the Bible has to be after this. What is this proving? The Bible's before all of that. The Bible is the original source.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right? It says consisting of 40 ancient Proto-Sinaitic, which is the same thing as Proto-Canaanite, consisting of 40 ancient Proto-Sinaitic letters on lead sheet that was subsequently folded and could only be read by a tomographic scanning. The inscription reads, cursed, cursed, cursed by the God YHWH. You will die. Cursed, you will surely die. Cursed by YHWH. Cursed, cursed, cursed. So this right here is very important.
Clear as, come on.
This also kills the Ahaya.
Yeah, you don't got it.
Right.
Stop playing with that.
So I'm gonna leave it at that. This is very important. I dropped this link in the back chat.
Please,
It's very important to understand archaeology.
I need that.
The news is not just damn COVID-19, man.
I'm past that already.
Scott Strickland, the dude that found us in the ABR organization, if I could say, are the top enthusiasts when it comes to proving the scriptures with archaeology. Like they go to the depths and literally to the ends of earth to prove archaeology proves the scriptures.
Damn, Edomite.
Yeah, it said once, then twice, instead of curse how many times? Damn.
And that's how
So the Bible just shortened it, because like that shows the severity when they translated it, like Lord was saying it multiple times.
nah, this is not this is what the book of Deuteronomy was explaining what they did on Mount Ebal. The book of Deuteronomy is literally a record book that is reiterating the laws that were already said before. That's all the book of Deuteronomy is. That's why it's called Deuteronomy. It means second law. That's not what it was originally called, but that's what it got called in the Greek. It's the second law. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the book of Deuteronomy is. The reiterating of the laws that was given before. You know what I'm saying?
That's why if you ever listen to it, like you said, it's really just a story of everything that happened since the Exodus all the way up until his death.
So
Come on, hold it up.
I'm gonna reiterate the name.
It's in the chat.
I'm gonna reiterate. Come on, that's a force.
That's good.
Man,
Put it down a little bit.
where?
It's over there.
Mega lot. Yeah, I'm gonna reiterate the name of the lesson. The name of the lesson is "The Most High Stirred Up Our Enemies," in subheader, Cristobal, Cologne, and the Spanish Inquisition. Now, let me just mention something real quick about the Spanish Inquisition. I'm just gonna touch on it. Really, that's a lesson within itself, you know, for whoever wants to go into it, but I'm just gonna touch on it. All right. A lot of times, when lessons are taught by myself, Shai, PANAH, whoever's up here, Barak, Kaz, everybody, sometimes we tend to compartmentalize certain things instead of filling in the void where things are supposed to be transitional to the next. You know, because for instance, we're going to be going in a little bit into how we was in Europe ruling, you know, but somebody will be thinking about how we ruled in Ireland and Scotland, but not also correlate that to how we ruled in Spain, how we ruled in Portugal, how we ruled, and so how things tied together. You know, how Christopher Columbus, which we're going to go into, whose name was Cristobal Colon, was sailing up and down the western ivory coasts of Africa, who learned, you know, slave trading before he was sent on the mission to the Americas.
Yeah.
But guess what? All those things was there during that time.
Right.
And we got to learn how to piece things together instead of saying, well, this happened and this happened. A lot of times, we hope as teachers that when we bring certain information out, that you guys could also fill in the voids. So it could be smooth sailing. So you won't get choked up over here, so you won't get choked up over there. Like when Barak brought out the lesson on Nebuchadnezzar, but that also goes, who's after that? Persian Medo Empire. Then when he brought out the lesson on Greece, some people will compartmentalize it. You're not supposed to do that. You have to understand what goes to the next, to the next, to the next. You know what I'm saying? So it could be a smooth flow transition. Me and Yawasop was talking, and then that's also going to help brothers out in camp. When you're able to understand, what went on through secular history, but also correlate through the scriptures, your teaching is much more fluid. So we're gonna go into it. So bear with me though, because I have to work up into the meat of the lesson. A lot of scriptures we already understand, but it's to paint a picture. All right, so we're gonna start off with Deuteronomy 28:15. Because this is the thing, Gabar did a lesson on how we already are in Jacob's trouble, which is true. It's absurd to think that we're about to be in Jacob's trouble. Doesn't make any sense, but why? Why are we in these things? Why did the Lord allow for these things to happen to us? It has to be beaten in our head. You can't just say on the mic when you're teaching in camp or you're teaching a brother at the gym or whatever the case may be, whoever you run into, because Israel sinned. How did Israel sin? It's very important. You have to be able to give detail. And that's when your knowledge gets tested, huh? Go ahead, read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
And so we already understand that's exactly what happened. But guess what? These happened to us in different times in history. Some of them we experienced, some of them we didn't experience, some of them we experienced everything. Right? In 1 Kings 12 and 25. Let's check our behavior. For us not hearkening and listening to the Most High. Let's check our behavior. What led to these catastrophic events? Every nation, basically, other than Israel, has truly prospered. There was one time for a little measly 40 years where Solomon was the king of the earth. Had total peace, had people sending in things from him from all over the world. All over the world. There's not 1 inch of the earth that Solomon did not know. But then you have people like the Persians. Then you have people like the Grecians. You have people like Rome, so on and so forth. Spain, France, Britain. They got a chance to rule. But Israel, we got next, huh? But we got to check to see our behavior. Let's go.
1 Kings chapter 12 and verse 25. Then Jeroboam built Shechem in Mount Ephraim and dwelt therein, and went out from thence and built Penuel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord.
So there's friction between the northern and the southern kingdom. And the northern chose to go with Jeroboam. And Jeroboam, instead of having them go to Jerusalem, he built two caps, right? And he had the people go into idolatry in the Lord's land, right? Because where's everybody at? Where's everybody at this time?
Oh, we're split right now, but I mean,
Where's the southern kingdom at? In the city of David, which is in
Jerusalem.
right. And then you had Jeroboam. He built up what? He built one place. He set up a calf in Shechem. And where else? Read that again.
Verse 27, if this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam king of
First of
Judah.
all, that's wicked. He didn't even want his own people to turn their hearts back to the Lord. Go ahead.
And they shall kill me and go again to Rehoboam king of Judah. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. And he set one in Bethel, and the other he put in Dan.
Right. So that's where they are. And he didn't allow them to go to Jerusalem because their hearts were turned again to the Lord, and they would end up murdering him because he was being wicked. Right? So this was going on in the time of Israel. And this is done right now. This is setting off with Northern Kingdom, right? Get Deuteronomy 28 and 44. We're just going to go into the things that led to the atrocities of our people, because we really defiled the land. We really forced it when it comes to the Lord.
Want me to read that?
But
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 44. He shall
Oh, my fault. Nah. Where am I going? Hosea 13 and 1. Tripping. Now, Hosea is in the time of who?
Shalmaneser.
Right, but I want here to show you the state of Israel and what we did and how the Lord was pissed off at us. Remember, we're painting the picture so we can fully understand. No, 13 and 1.
Right there. This is Hosea chapter 13. When Ephraim spake trembling, he exalted himself in Israel. But when he offended in Baal, he died.
Keep going.
And now they say,
See, it says, but when Ephraim spake trembling, he exalted himself. Who's Ephraim represented as?
Northern Kingdom.
Right, go ahead.
and now they sin more and more.
They what?
They sin more and more.
Go ahead.
And have made them molten images of their silver.
So they got fire with their sinning. They're putting extra effort into sinning. They're making molten silver, molten images, idols. They're raising up. We got to think about it, right? They was building groves and mountains and hills and things of that nature, making gods out of these things and idols and worshiping them. Remember? And remember, they was doing it in the land where the Lord set his heart. Remember, when David appointed the capital of Jerusalem in the city of David, and it tells you, I believe like a few chapters later, the Lord set his heart on Jerusalem. He set his eyes and his heart on Jerusalem. And what do we turn to do? This is what we turned out to do in that land. Polluted and defiled it. Right? But it's about to get even better. But everybody follow me so far? Come.
And have made them molten images of their silver and idols according to their understanding.
According to their what? You gotta say.
According to their own understanding.
Right. According to their own understanding. Right? Because that also had to do with, because this is the separation between Israel and Judah. But I remember PANAH, he had done a lesson long ago where he talked about, in the scripture, it talks about that that Judah basically had the spirit of the law, you know, because we kept the traditions of the law, the original law. But Ephraim, or the northern kingdom, they strayed away and they started adding paganisms and making up their own holy days and things of that nature. PANAH, what's that called again? Samaritanism. Boom. Samaritanism. Right? So that's what was going on. Right? They strayed away from the law. They strayed away from the original word. And then they started erecting molten images of gold, of silver, of other gods and things of that nature, having their children pass through the fire, which means sacrificing. Right? Right. This is what we was doing in the land that the Lord had his eyes on. What do we do now when we pray? What are we supposed to pray towards? Right. Right, the land. Because there was a land that was set apart. It was a land in which the Lord had his eyes on. It was our land. But the Lord had to, what? He was upset. Look at what we were doing. You got to think about it. Look at it in your mind. Try to really envision what was going on. You're this holy people, literally set apart from everybody upon the face of the earth. But you're in the most precious land. I remember it was brought out long ago that the soil of Jerusalem was being shipped out to other places because of how rich and how fertile it was. You was able to grow. And it was so fruitful. You're talking the land that was blessed beyond your anything you've ever seen before. Remember, Solomon had golden shields, man. He made sure Jerusalem was decked out. And in that same place, look at what he was doing. Erecting other images, profaning the Lord's name, putting the Lord's name on other images. What did they call the golden calf when they came out of Egypt? Go ahead.
All of it, the work of the craftsmen. They say of them, let the men that sacrifice kiss the calves. Therefore, they shall be as the morning.
That's just like today too. Like I remember working with this nurse, and she's Catholic, and she had a rosary beads. And she said, every time before I pray, I kiss my rosary beads. I'm like, you're kissing rosary beads? That's idol worship. Like, continue. That's to the first extent of what we was doing. Like, and the Lord even said, like, you're worshiping things that is not even living. Like, I'm your living God. I'm moving. You put food in front of them, it be getting rinky-dink, spoiled, stinking. You know, the people who's poor probably come out at night when nobody's looking to come munch on the food that's sacrificed to the idols. Wood and stone, man. And then they got fancy with it and said gold and silver. They was wasting jewels on these building idols. That's crazy. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Therefore, they shall be as the morning cloud, and as the early dew that passeth away, as the chaff that is driven with the whirlwind out of the floor, and as the smoke out of the chimney.
Precept. Just expound on that real quick. We may read scriptures and not understand like the Lord's anger and frustration with children. And it's painting an analogy to show you the lifespan of men, right? So Psalms 144, verse 4.
Well, that's Psalms 144, verse what?
4.
4. Just in case I can't hear, Shah.
This is Psalms 144, verse 4. Man is like to vanity.
That's a simile. Comparison to his own creation is like vanity. Am I loud?
No, they can hear him. They can hear.
So man is like unto vanity. It's a simile, right? And it's specifically speaking on the sins and idolatry that Israel is participating in, right? Keep reading.
His days are as a shadow that passeth away.
His days are as a shadow that passeth away. We know according to our particular times, whether it be daylight saving, so on and so forth, that days and particular hours can only last for so long. So we're speaking on because of their impurities and how they find away at their own lives, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. That's the end of that. So that was just expound on that particular scripture, because when you read scriptures like these, you want to be able to mentally articulate exactly what's being read.
We're in verse 4.
Yep.
All right, verse 4. Yet I am the Lord thy God from the land of Egypt, and thou shalt know no God but me.
Read that again.
And thou shalt know no God but me.
But what was we doing? We was going on whoring literally after other gods. And he's saying, you shouldn't know nobody else but me. You shouldn't know Krishna. You shouldn't know Ra. You shouldn't know Anubis. You shouldn't know Caesar Borgia. You shouldn't know none of that. You should only know me. But what did we do? We did the exact opposite. Right? Go ahead.
For there is no Savior besides me.
Ooh, read that again.
For there is no Savior beside me.
A cobblestone that looks like a woman's vagina is not going to save you. You sitting there praying 5 times a day, banging your dumb head on the floor so people can see a stupid mark on your forehead. You over there falling out in church, looking at Caesar Borgia on the cross. You over there in India, rubbing cow manure and urine all over your body, worshiping and praising cows. You have a rat temple. Dirty, nasty, defiled, rat piss everywhere. Things looking as big as the rats in New York. Over there, you just let them crawl up on. You have a throne in a rat temple, that big chair. I know everybody's seen it. And you're sacrificing food to them, and them things are getting bigger, multiplying. And this is what you choose over the living God who created the stars, who created the heavens, who created the earth. Even the human body, man, is fearfully and wonderfully made. There's still things they cannot figure out about human beings. Still to this day. They have not figured out everything about the human. You want to choose to go serve these disgusting, nasty, wild other gods that you made with your own hands, or that you looked on the earth and chose to erect. That's why the Lord was upset with us, man. And it's funny because we knew better. These other heathens, these other Gentiles, they don't know any better. If you know better, why the hell would you rub cow shit on you? That doesn't make any sense. Grow out your dreads and eat humans. And then you want to say, Selassie, nothing, man. It's YHWH. Read that again. What did he say? There's no what?
There's no God but me.
No, that's not what it says.
Oh, and thou shalt know no God but me. For there is no Savior beside me.
There's no Savior other than YHWH. There's no other Redeemer. At this point, we should be ashamed to keep the customs of other nations, man. It gotta be like imperative for you to actually want to know your God, for you to actually want to have him sup with you, man, to comfort you, to bless you with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, for you to get back to your roots. We fell from a glorious estate. Nobody was touching us. just to serve other gods, man, because we didn't want to listen or hearken to the Lord. We had everything. So it's only appropriate that we fall from it. What's the first thing that, for people who have children, what's the first thing you start to do when your child's misbehaving? You say, I'm gonna take away your toys, I'm gonna take away your PlayStation, your Xbox, I'm gonna take away your TV. Oh yeah, your fresh clothes that you like to wear, yeah, we're not having that. You're about to go to school looking like a bum. You start taking everything that they have that you blessed them with. The same thing the Lord did. And depending on how severe it is, you get kicked out the house. And no matter how prideful you may be, something inside you in your spirit always wants to go back home because you know how good it is there. What do you think happened to Israel? It's the same thing. You know what's worse though? In the midst of Puerto Rico getting flared on by hurricanes, in the midst of us getting wiped out by all these atrocities, Haiti having another earthquake, violence happening. You know, in Honduras, right? They called their killings a femicide. You know what a femicide? Does anybody know what a femicide is? And what tribe is Honduras, by the way? What tribe is? Anybody know what tribe Honduras is? Come on, guys.
Zebulon.
Yeah. So they had a femicide. What's that sound like? Right. It sounds like a genocide. What's a genocide?
Mass murder.
Mass murder. They said in Honduras they have a femicide. Women are dying. Children are becoming prostitutes at age 10 and 11. Come on, man. 10 and 11 years old. They are killing, men are killing women. And you know the crazy thing about, I asked myself, like, it's a man's natural desire to like females. And you're killing us. Just think about it. I don't want to go too far, but like you're killing us.
What did they do?
That exactly. That's
What's gonna go?
So, but you know, the point that I'm trying to make though, that I'm trying to get to is, in the midst of them having a femicide, do you know what they're still doing? Praying to idols. Yo, this is crazy. Yo, we have to be the people, yo. We are the most stubborn people on the planet. Yo, in the midst of the femicide, we're still praying to idols. When the hurricane happened in Puerto Rico, do you know what they went to go get their idols. Like this is the state of our people. And this is what the Lord has to deal with.
Yeah, I remember my grandma found I had the poster with Caesar Borgia with the horns on it. Everything was like, a little collage of shoes. My grandma was disappointed, man. She didn't talk to me for that whole day. Like, she thought I was singing.
The blonde hair, blue eye, huh?
I wanted to read what you had brought up on femicide.
Go
Femicide
ahead.
real quick.
Go ahead.
Can you go back that little paragraph that I was talking about El Salvador and the statistics real quick? Where we go? Oh, Con, there it is. So it said, so this question asks is, who has the highest rate of femicide? This says the rates of femicide differ depending on the specific country. But of the countries with the top 25 highest femicide rates, 50% are in Latin America.
Yo,
With number one being El Salvador, also included
that's partially because of MS-13. Go ahead.
Also included in the top 25 are 7 European countries, 3 Asian countries, and 1 African country, South Africa.
All right, so what's going on in Central America, real quick, what's going on, I speak loud, and what's going on in Central America is that, like the Ottawan just said, there's gang warfare out there, and they're also fighting the government. So the closest thing they can do is always go after a family member. So what's happening is, say if I'm beefing with a gang or if I'm beefing with a politician, because that's what's going on in Honduras and El Salvador, they're going to the family and they're wiping out the woman, wiping out the kids. It's a literal war out there. Central, from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras is the most dangerous place on earth outside of war-stricken countries. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of craziness going on out there, man. Like with the wars and all of that, and it's crazy. Now, the leader of, I believe it's El Salvador, is an Ishmaelite.
Yep.
And what he's doing is he's locking people up, and he's having them literally a bunch of people. You seen that? You seen that?
Yeah, they're all hugged up, literally leg to leg behind.
Naked. That's what they're beating these men. They're spraying them with holes. An Ishmaelite, man. An Ishmaelite ruling over that country, man. It's craziness.
That's why searching one lineage is important, because you figure a president of your own kindred would have mercy and compassion, but it shows you for him to be treating them like that, clearly he's not of their own kindred. I also forgot to bring up the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, he's not even Ukrainian. He's Jewish.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
You don't think Putin knows what he's doing when he's trying to kick everybody out? He knows what he's doing.
Continue. Verse 5.
Isaiah 13.
Yep.
You got it?
Hosea 13:5. I did know thee in the wilderness and the land of great drought.
Mm-hmm.
According to their pasture, so were they filled. They were filled, and their heart was exalted.
Right.
Therefore have they forgotten me.
Right. So they had their fill. They was in the land doing what they wanted to do. They was going off. And that caused them to do what? Be prideful. In the beginning of pride, what? What happens in the beginning of pride? Right. And pride sets you away from who? There you go. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Therefore I will be unto them as a lion.
Read that again.
Therefore I will be unto them as a lion. As a leopard by the way will I observe them. I will meet them as a bear that is bereaved of her whelps, and will rend.
What happens when you get you get next to a bear's cubs? Does anybody see that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? I think it's called The Revenant. You remember what happened when that bear scene? He got devoured. If you look that up, that bear scene, man, I don't know if you want to pull that up, but like, images are important, man. Lord, don't be playing with us. And another thing about a lion, I don't know if anybody knew this, but if you get into contact with a lion, do you know why you have to kill it?
No, it's not going down until you're down.
Yes. With its last breath, it will try to kill you. It don't matter if its paw is broken, its spine is snapped. With its last breath, it will try to devour your ass. So the Lord is letting you know exactly how he's going to be because of what we've done.
Can I read the definition of bereaved?
Go ahead.
The pride of a close relation or friend through their death. Just like a mom bear lost her little cub to death. That's how this, that's how the Most High reacts to us.
I don't know if you want to play that real fast.
Yeah, it's on you to turn it up, Pop.
He really got that. You can't see it though. Is it because of the lighting? He really got devoured by that bear. How you can stop that? No, it's
Just those small clips was good enough.
yeah, he was getting devoured though, but like when you think of these things, that's how you gotta look. Like you gotta really paint the picture in your mind to see what the Lord is actually saying. Go ahead though, continue.
Verse 8, I will beat them as a bear that is bereaved of her whelps, and will rend the cow of their heart. And there will I devour them like a lion, the wild beast shall tear them. O Israel, thou hast destroyed thyself.
Read that again.
O Israel, thou hast destroyed thyself, but in me is thine help.
Look at how good the Lord is to us, yo. The Lord is saying, yo, in me is the only way you're gonna have salvation. You cannot go anywhere else. Keep playing though. I'm gonna jack your ass up. Go ahead.
Verse 10, I will be thy king, whereas any other that may save thee in all thy cities and thy judges.
He said, where is any other that may save thee in all thy cities? You cannot go anywhere else. There's no other king. There's no other savior, right? Go ahead.
And thy judges of whom thou saidest, give me a king and princes. I gave thee a king in my anger and took him away in my wrath.
Right. I gave thee a king in my anger and took him away in my wrath. Who was that?
Saul.
Come. Go ahead.
Verse 12, the iniquity of Ephraim is bound up, his sin is hid. The sorrows of a travailing woman shall come upon him. He is an unwise son, for he should not stay long in the place of the breaking forth of children.
Right, being fruitful, because that's what it is, bringing forth of children. Jeremiah 3:19.
Everybody there?
Right.
This is Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 19. But I said, how shall I put thee among the children and give thee a pleasant land, a goodly heritage of the host of nations? And I said, thou shalt call me my father and shalt not turn away from me.
Right. So go ahead, keep going.
Verse 20, surely as a wife treacherously departed from her husband, so have ye dealt treacherously with me.
So that's clear. That's clear. The Lord is looking at Israel. This is Israel right now, specifically Israel, not Israel and Judah. But he's saying, which another thing is, the Lord is saying that they're sisters, which never mind. But so he's saying that Israel has dealt treacherously with him as like a wife departing her husband. So the greatest example you could use and really still doesn't touch the Lord is like a man walking in on his wife having sex with another man. The amount of wrath and pain and anger that one would fail from seeing that. I can't say that's how the Lord feels, but that's the beginning. Right, go ahead.
That's it on that. Oh, verse 21. A voice was heard upon the high places, weeping and supplications of the children of Israel, for they have perverted their way, and they have forgotten the Lord their God. Return ye, backsliding children.
Read that again.
Return ye, backsliding children.
Read it again.
Return ye, backsliding children, and I will heal your backsliding.
And I will heal your backsliding, man. How merciful the Lord is in all the things that we've done. Even still today, man. You don't think that the Lord is wrathful about his people? I think 2/3 is finished of Israel. The Lord is using the elect as messengers, prophets, and teachers to go out and wake up that 1/3. The rest of us are finished because it's the same estate as when we were coming out of Egypt. It's the same estate as when we were in Babylon. It's the same estate as when we was in Persia. Same estate, same. But even in that, the Lord still gives our nation a chance. Still, and says, come to me. I will heal your backslidings. It doesn't matter if you was making other gods and serving other gods in the land and polluted the land. It doesn't matter if you build groves and sacrificed to them. Come back to me. I'm gonna heal you. Salvation's only through me. And that's another thing too, man. Like, as we're getting closer and closer, to the end, I know it's being said a lot. It's been said, it's redundant, but you should try, brothers, sisters, to really examine yourself in these last days. A lot of people, they're not honest with themselves. They may have some sort of integrity around people, but it's the integrity that you have behind closed doors that really matters the most. Why? Because the Lord can see you. It's time to start looking at yourself, man. And I'm gonna ask a question. Is, fornication, worth you not receiving your crown? Is alcoholism, worth you not receiving your crown? Is smoking weed, every now and again, worth you not receiving your crown? Is adultery worth you not receiving your crown? Is pornography worth you not receiving your crown? Is even being lackadaisical and idle worth you not receiving your crown? What the Lord tell you to do? Commandment is occupy thyself. So what your ass being lazy for? You can fill your day up with stuff, man. And there's no reason why, brothers. I'm gonna keep saying this, but there's no reason why everybody shouldn't at least know the Hebrew alphabet. All it takes is what? Let's say, give or take, if we being nice, like 15 minutes.
Sean, would you say 10?
10 minutes a day. A day, that's it. Just one time. You ain't gotta force it. You ain't gotta do it for an hour. Start small. Because Barak was about to bring out some heavy stuff, man, on Hebrew. He's about to teach our camp Hebrew and the importance of it. Get that in Sirach, when he said it's better in our own tongue. But you got that precept. Read that precept before we get there.
Yeah, this is dealing with what he was just saying in terms of examining yourself. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 31. For if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged.
And that's real, yo. You have to be able to judge yourself, yo. You have to be able to examine yourself and put off those things, man. Put off those old things. What are you running this race for? You cannot run the race in vain. There's one thing, one big thing that the Lord is pleased with. You can't give the Lord nothing, but there's one huge thing that the Lord is pleased with. It's your character. Are you the same man that you was last year today? If you are, that's bad. And then I can really step it up a notch. You know, are you the same man you was last week? What about yesterday? Those are for the people who's actually hungry to improve themselves. That's for yourself. That's not for me. You ain't got to prove nothing to me. But that's for yourself. The Lord is pleased with your character, man. Would you think the Lord is about to spookify and just sprinkle you with something and then all of a sudden you just become new? No, you have to try. You have to put the effort in. How you think that that man, that crippled man, he got healed by the trouble in water? You think that you think that he wasn't out there every single day? 38 years. So you don't think that you got to apply that same amount of effort to your life? And hopefully, one thing that we're done with when we finish this lesson is remember why you're doing camp, man. Your blood should be boiling when you go out and camp and teach. One, because of all the atrocities that we faced as a people. Two, because every single time we go out, it don't even have to be camp, teaching brothers, as long as you getting the word out. Every time we raise and we get the elect, we're that much closer to this place being destroyed. Isn't that a relief just thinking about it? We gotta stop playing, man. Go ahead. What you got?
Yeah, precept regarding effort.
Effort. Let's get it.
It's an oldie but goodie. Proverbs 24, verse 16. For a just man falleth 7 times and rises up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. So I bring that up because it takes an effort to get back up after you have fallen. Because it's harder and harder each time when you fall. That's why it says the wicked, they just stay down the mischief.
Right.
Because that's the easiest way out.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got that in Sirach?
This is the prologue to Sirach on page 70. It's at the bottom of the second paragraph. It says, for the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them.
See, it don't have the same force in them. It's not as deep. You're not going to really understand the scriptures in the way that you're not in the way you're supposed to understand it because it's not in its original tongue. And then Barak's also going to bring up with the toolage of Yahusah how the concordance is basically like an elementary level to learning Hebrew or learning the words that was actually there. There's other books that go in depth that are more accurate. And Barak, I cannot wait. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to hold you. I feel like a kid in the candy store. But I can't wait till he actually really starts teaching Hebrew because it's very important. Like it's crazy because I didn't consider it the way that I do now. It's extremely important. You know, so that's a side note. But Israel, we did crazy, abominable things in the Lord's eyes, man. It's basically to the point of no return until YHWH came and spilled his blood for us. The Lord was fed up and tired. Right? Keep going. In Jeremiah 3, and I believe we're at 24.
We're at 23.
23.
This is Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 23. Truly in vain is salvation hoped for from the hills.
Why he say that? Remember who he's talking to. Why did the Lord say that? Come on, y'all supposed to be paying attention, man. Why did the Lord say that? Who's he talking to? He's talking to Israel.
Because they're returning to
Jeremiah, read it again.
23.
Truly in vain is salvation hoped for from the hills.
Why he say that to Israel?
3 and 23, right?
Yeah.
So this is going into you look at the truly in vain salvation. It's hopeful for the hills. You know, this is going into like it's vain for the other nations to receive salvation, because salvation going up to Israel. If you read the end of that scripture.
Read 22 so it can help him out.
This is Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 22. Return ye backsliding children, and I will heal your backsliding. Behold, we come unto thee, for thou art the Lord our God. Verse 23. Truly in vain is salvation hoped for from the hills and from the multitude of mountains.
We look at the hills and the multitude of mountains. It's talking about, you know, the other nations, the governments. You look at the turn of the mountains. It's salvation is vain for those people.
Read verse 6.
Verse 6. The Lord said also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel hath done? She is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there hath played the harlot.
Now read verse 23 again.
Verse 23. Truly in vain is salvation hoped for from the hills.
So why is he saying that to Israel?
Because Israel was playing the harlot going into other nations.
Right.
So when you look at
Right.
23, they were going unto other nations trying to find, you know, safety or salvation.
Yes.
Find
Come.
That's why when you read the end of 23, it says truly salvation unto Israel, because only God is the most high God is the redeemer of Israel.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come.
You said the mountains are like
The mountains,
Yeah.
the mountains.
Nations.
That's what mountains is, nations.
But in nations, when we're going off to other nations, what are we doing? Come. Verse 24.
Now, it's not always, mountains is not always going to be speaking of the nation.
It depends on context.
Yeah, because we have like when we were on Mount. So.
When we was talking in class the other day about AHLAHAYANAWA. So you have to look up some context.
It's all context.
Yeah, like when Moses went on the mount.
We speak one mind.
Come.
Now, now to get the context, sometimes you go to rely on the strong storyline.
It depends. Like not
Context
really.
has nothing to do with strong.
Yeah.
Context has everything to do with line. That's why the scripture says precept upon precept, line upon line. That's context. Then you got here a little and there a little.
Now, to find that, sometimes the Bible has the precept next to it, but not always that precept will go with the context of what is being spoken. So you have to continue to read. Going back to what you were saying as far as knowing the chronicles of when things are happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to know the chronicles. Yes.
Exactly.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Now that takes time. It don't necessarily mean that, okay, like right now I'm reading, I'm going into the end of Samuel, first Samuel, I'm going into, second Samuel, going into Chronicles 1. That will go with some of the same Chronicles 10.
What do you mean?
I think it's Chronicles. basically, I'm not, just trying to get that's what you were saying before, as far as, we'll find a
Yeah. All right, we finished 25. Speed it up a little bit. 24, go ahead.
For shame have devoured the labor of our fathers from our youth, their flocks and their herds, their sons and their daughters. We lie down in our shame, and our confusion cover us. For we have sinned against the Lord our God.
Read that again.
For we have sinned against the Lord our God. We and our fathers from our youth even unto this day. And
Even unto what?
Even unto this day.
That's a fact, man. The same thing's going on with our nation. Go ahead.
And have not obeyed the voice of the Lord our God.
Deuteronomy 28 and 44 now. So I just wanted to get a brief description. We could go on all day and talk about how Israel messed up. I just wanted to get a brief description or paint the picture of how, we disobeyed the Lord. Everybody following me so far? Come. And so because of, us disobeying the Lord said that he would put us, we was at the head. Well, he said, you're going to put us where? Go ahead and read that, whoever got that.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 44.
Somebody get me Genesis 25 and 27.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
Who's this talking about? Who's this talking about that we swapping places with? They found 25, 27, and then somebody get me 27 and 39.
Genesis chapter 25 and verse 27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter.
Hold on. Concord cunning, please. I need you guys to understand something. Esau is very meticulous in hunting. Very meticulous. The animal planets that I love watching with my kids, I don't know how they be having the lens in certain spots, or how sometimes they gotta wait days for a certain shot. Just how still and how concentrated and how focused they are at completing their task, man. Like I remember watching something on dung beetle. They had a little microscopic camera in the house of the dung beetle, and then all you see is, because the dung beetles, they push dung with their back legs. All you see is coming in his own home, like he's already been chilling in his house. All you see is the dung beetle pushing the dung in his house, entering his house. Like they're very meticulous when it comes to hunting, even with the Black Panthers, even on that level. They send a Jake in, and they was very meticulous on the meeting places, certain words and certain lingos. Like for instance, why do you think Jake's always inventing new slang for different things? Right. So it used to be when you had a gun, it was the hammer, right? And yeah, I got the hammer on me. Then the Esau got hit to that. Now what people saying, yo, I got the stick. Now it's gonna be called something else. They're very meticulous. They know that the heater, but they're very meticulous. They will wait. You know what I'm saying? They'll zoom up on a lion, and you'll see from afar. You never seen the flies on the lion's face. They'll zoom up on the lion. You see the lion got like 20 flies on their face. Like they're so meticulous in the way that they hunt and the information that they gather. You know what I'm saying? To devour their prey. To devour their prey. And who's their? Hello? All right. Wow, that's crazy. And who's their prey? Who's been their prey ever since Isaac died? Right. So they make sure like how we be saying, they are the masters of having their ears to the streets. Masters of that. They're watching and they're listening. right? So they're very cunning. They're very, go ahead, get that.
For the word cunning is H3045. It is yadai, and it means to be known, to be learned,
To be learned,
to be privy to.
to be privy to,
It is to be diligent,
right? To be very diligent in being privy to what? The knowledge of your brother, knowing how he thinks, knowing how he moves, right? Even they, sometimes, you know, it's funny too. They're so afraid of us, because I hope you know they have meetings on about us. You know what I'm saying? In high places, they're so afraid of us. There's camps that's infiltrated, but guess what? That's different about every other group. You cannot infiltrate the Lord's business. It's about the Lord. The only thing that's gonna happen is you're going to be destroyed, and we got next. That's it. And you cannot stop it. They know the Bible in and out. They cannot stop, reverse, do anything, because the Lord's word goes out and it doesn't come back to him void. You can write as many notes. You can write, you see YHWH cutting somebody on the corner. It doesn't matter. You cannot infiltrate the Lord's business, because what's going to happen is going to happen, period. But they are cunning. They're very privy. They know everything, or they know just about everything. Right? But finish that verse off.
Genesis chapter 25 and verse 27. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field.
A man of the field, wrestling alligators, but he died by a stingray. That's crazy.
And Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents.
Genesis 27 and 39.
This is Genesis chapter 27 and verse 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above.
So, real quick, remember this. I need everybody to remember this, okay? Because I'm asking a cool question. When Isaac blessed them with this, right? Does anybody think that it just puffed out of nowhere? How is he going to fulfill this prophecy? YHWH, you can definitely not answer. Can't. How is he going to fulfill this prophecy? Think about it. Having the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth. How is he going to fulfill that prophecy? You can't answer either, bro. Shai, you definitely can't answer. I don't know. This dude always has the answer. Nope. By what? Con. But I'm looking for something specific, but
So you gave the answer.
yeah, you could get a scripture if you want. Yeah, quote it.
Yeah, quote it. I'll read it for you.
Genesis concerning the promise with Esau.
That's what we're reading.
But he's gonna get it through two ways, right? One, you're right. One is by the sword. I'm gonna try to pick your brain again in a little bit about the other way. But for now, continue to read that until you get to 40, verse 40.
And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from thy neck.
Right. So, because he lived in our shadow, right? But, and how do we know that? I don't want to jump the gun, but you have Revelations 20. We're going to get that later. And after you broke off the yoke from his neck, what did he begin to do, right? So you have to understand, like, and this is what I'm talking about, like, that's what I was trying to say in the beginning of the lesson. We'll compartmentalize that. We'll say, after he broke the yoke of his neck, well, we have to be able to connect it. We have to be able to be like, to transition. We have to be able to see and connect. What is Isaac talking about right here? Con? So, where we at right now? All right, boom. Now, this is what I was gonna say. What's the other tool that Esau has other than the sword? The what? Yeah, you're warm, yo. It's specific, yo. It's specific. It's specific. He what? But how though? I need you to say something, man. You got it, yo. You got. Yes. He lied. He lied. I'm gonna get something real fast. Give me Genesis 3:1. And then Apayak, if you can, so kindly pull up the definition of double speak.
This is Genesis chapter 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, has God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the tree of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden,
Here it comes.
God hath said,
Here it comes.
Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Here it comes.
And the serpent said unto the woman,
Ye shall not surely die. Ye shall not surely die. She knew something to be sure. If I eat from this tree, or if I listen to these other people, because we know who the tree were, if I listen to these other people, I'm gonna die. Said it. You shall not surely die. It's not gonna happen. What's only gonna happen is your eyes gonna open. You're gonna start to see things for what it really is. Double tongue. Go ahead.
This is Sirach, chapter 28 and verse 13.
Wow, that's one of my
Curse the whisperer and double tongue.
Curse the what? Read that again.
Curse the whisperer and double tongue.
Read it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Good. For such have destroyed many that were at peace.
Apayak, you got that? Double speak.
28 and 13.
Awesome. Precepts. Evil.
Spirit, man.
You wicked, man. No? No, that's not your one. No, that's. I got. No, I got this one. Read this. Just you can stop that language.
So this is the definition of double speak. In such cases, double speak disguises the nature of the truth.
Read it again.
In such cases, double speak disguises the nature of the truth. Double speak is the most closely associated with political language.
So that tells you what exactly they use double speak in politics a lot, and double speak is a science and language in which they use to deceive the masses all the time. You know, let's say, from COVID-19, 2 million something people died from the COVID-19. Number one, it might have only been 10. Number two, it could have been they're not telling you that anybody who dies in any relations that has respiratory issues, even though that might not be the predominant way they died, they could have died from a brain tumor. But because the brain tumor inhibited their ability to breathe, they'll say COVID. They'll put COVID on it. So that people are not really seeing where these levels of deaths is amassing from. They use double speak all the time to hide their agenda. Okay? As the double tongue, as the serpent, right? Go ahead.
This is Daniel chapter 8 and verse 25. And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Going into exactly what he's saying about policy and politics.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have craft to prosper, which is deceit. And of course, going into witchcraft through his media, social media, like you were saying, Squat, through his social, social engineering,
Mm-hmm.
right? Social science. This is what they do, man. So.
And get the definition of new speak. You gotta know your enemy just like he know you.
So newspeak, the idea behind
Control.
the idea behind newspeak is that as language must become less expressive, the mind is more easily controlled.
Right. So the less they say, the more they can control you. Through double speak and through newspeak. It sounds like a lot of confusion. And that's exactly what they do. All that, right? Those are the basically ingredients for what? Cognitive dissonance. That's the root of it. To tell you 10% of the truth and cover it in 90% of a lie. So you don't really know what's going on. Does that make sense? Everybody calm?
The two words that would flow in your head with that would be what if.
Right. Give me Job 13:4. And then get the Concord Forges for me. Job 13:4. So I already got that right. 13.
This is Job chapter 13, verse 4. But ye are forgers of lies.
Read that again.
But ye are forgers of lies.
One more time.
But ye are forgers of lies.
Concord Forges for me.
Forgers is H2950, the Hebrew word to Paul, which is to impute falsely.
To what?
To impute falsely. To smear or plaster over.
To smear or plaster over. What I just said. They give you 10% of the truth and smear or plaster over 90% of the lie, giving you 100% of bullshit. See how that works? Con? Everybody with me so far? So that's a weapon that they use. Right? Let me, you already? Nope. Psalms 28:3. You already got that? No, you didn't. Psalms 28:3.
Psalms chapter 28, verse 3. Draw me not away with the wicked and with the workers of iniquity, which speak peace to their neighbors.
But speak what?
But speaks peace to their neighbors, but mischief is in their heart.
But mischief is in their heart. Right? Saying one thing to you, but meaning something else. All right? And that's key, because we're going to get Revelations 20:2. Sometimes people don't bring this out, but it's hidden within these two verses.
Everybody there? Revelation chapter 20, verse 2. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil.
Who's this talking about? Esau, right? Go ahead.
And Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
Go ahead, keep going.
And cast him into the bottomless pit.
So what is this time talking about? Anybody can answer. Everybody knows, so anybody can answer. Dark ages, right? And who ruled in the dark ages? Now, I need some countries, some towns, let me know. Just yell it out. Scotland, yup. Germany, yup. Yup.
The world.
The world. Thank you. Now, this is very, Iberian Peninsula. That's key. That's key. That's key. That's key. That's key. You voiced it right now. I see you over here. But yes, all these places, we ruled the world, as Yahweh said. But go ahead.
Go ahead. If you look at the Middle Ages, it is the growing power of most pristine nations you see today. Through them kicking us out of power. From China to Japan, to the west coast of Africa, to the interiors of Africa, to the east coast, all of the entire earth we rule.
We rule, yeah.
The entire earth. But the prominent people were in Europe because That's a whole nother lesson.
But please remember that, because this is the part though, it gets confusing. When the people start saying, oh, the Jews, when we read a little bit of the Spanish Inquisition, people think of the Jewish people because they associate Europe with what? Caucasianism.
I got sources for you. I know
right?
You told me to bring
And then you have England and things of that nature. They only give us a little bit of credit, but really a lot of through this period that I'm gonna go into, people confuse it and they try to whitewash it. Okay, so you got to keep that in your mind. Remember, it's hard to because you see a bunch of movies. I like war movies. You know what I'm saying? I like medieval movies and things of that nature. A lot of times when you watch those, what do? They have all white people. Right. So remember that because we ruled Europe, Spain, all of that, Portugal, all of that. We ruled that. Khan? To make sure.
Whenever you need
Black nobility.
Right. Well, keep going in verse 3, because it's something key. Because that's the reason why I went over double speak, new speak. And y'all was talking about the beautiful precept in Sirach 28 and 13, talking about the double tongue. Because immediately when they was loosed, it's in there. I don't want to say it yet. Go ahead. I want to see if y'all catch it.
And cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season.
So real quick, right? What stands out in verse 3? Read it again.
And cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be.
Did y'all catch it yet? And then comma, and then what's that word right after the comma? Till 1,000 years be fulfilled. Which means out the gate, they're not using their ace card. Their ace card is what?
Sword.
The sword. Ain't nobody could stand the test of the time of Esau with the sword until now, because people got the same amount of guns and things of that nature. But what did he use first? His double tongue. So a lot of people, they don't catch that a little bit. It says till 1,000 years be fulfilled and he's loosed again. Right? So that's important. That's important. Right? Now, I have a book. This book is called Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust, Slavery and the Rise of the European Capitalism. This is important, right? Because what's the title of the lesson? Before that, that's the subheader. The Lord is going to do what?
Most High.
He's going to stir up our enemies. I'm going to show you guys the state that they was in before they came and got us. All right?
You got blurry on there.
That's crazy.
Bring it out.
But I want to. Oh, he got it. He got it up. Yeah. I'm going to go to page 74. All the way back there. We're going to start from right here. You can read all. We're going to come back to this page though too, but start from here to Philly and all the way down. This is important.
Edomites are different to the point of insanity now, because all these books containing this valuable information, they're raising up the prices.
Of course, but we got to get them, man, because you got to read them. Page 74.
Read the whole book. It's only like $5-10.
Yeah, that one.
One thing I got epic study.
This is Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust, page 74. After the Crusades and the period of plagues and famines,
Listen carefully.
Europe had lost 1/3 of its population. The Africans and the Arabs, who had been controlling Spain,
Read that again.
the Africans and the Arabs, who had been controlling Spain,
When he says Africans, he's talking about us. Go ahead.
who had been controlling Spain and the Mediterranean since the year 711, who were still in control, though that control had begun to weaken.
The control begin to what?
Began to weaken.
Go ahead.
Europeans were short of food and the ability to preserve food.
Read that again.
Europeans were short of food and the ability to preserve food.
So let me paint you this picture. So we drove them where? We drove Edomites where? Right. And then they started to basically come back and beat us. Right? Now they're settling in these places. Right? Read that part again.
Europeans were short of food and the ability to preserve food.
So what's going on or what's happening is when they beat us and they're starting to rule these places, they have their food shortages, right? Go ahead, keep reading.
They wanted and needed access to spices, sweets, and preservatives of Asia in order to continue to survive. This is the period when some of the conflict between the marriage of Queen Isabella and Ferdinand of Spain. It was also the period when Spain regained her sovereignty and drove out her Arab and African colonial masters, collectively called Moors. The Spanish were looking for ethnic and religious purity.
Read that again.
The Spanish were looking for ethnic and religious purity and therefore expelled the Jews.
Expelled the who?
The Jews.
Expelled the who?
The Jews.
The who?
The Jews.
Go ahead.
Along with the Arabs and the Africans of Muslim faith. This was not only a turning point in the history of Europe, it was a major turning point in the history of the world. This period not only saw the rise of the Atlantic slave trade and the European colonization of most of the world, Europeans subsequently began to colonize information about the history of the world. They colonized complementary images and began to infer that whiteness was the image of goodness.
Look at that. So they start to beat us. Then after they expelled us, because he said they expelled the Jews, we're going to get in this book too, that it's briefly, but even shows you and proves to you that they knew that the Jews were black.
Do y'all know when this 1,000-year period began?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. My fault. You're right.
Is that the Byzantine Empire?
When did, around what time span did this 1,000-year quote unquote dark ages begin? And then when it began to fall?
Septimus
Severus, conquering Rome. Exactly, through the gladiators.
Sure.
Right? He conquered Rome, and that's when through Eastern Europe we began to rule. It's not just Spain. That's later.
That's late.
We ruled in Germany. We ruled in all them Slovakia and all them crazy countries over there. Poland. Why do you think those people over there began to know about Judaism? Because they seen us.
And they converted too.
And then they began to fall in around 1100 AD through the Byzantine Empire and through a faction of people there known as Idumeans. Whole nother lesson, right? Because this is a whole lesson in itself. And these people began to whitewash. Whitewashing didn't start in Europe. Whitewashing started in the Middle East, in the Byzantine Empire, through deceit. Right? Just as Haman was sitting in the back, this is how you know all these people are Edomites. Just as Haman was sitting in the back and correlating things to overthrow so he can rule, they did the same thing in the Byzantine Empire. The same exact thing, sitting next to us. And then how did the Byzantine Empire fall? Through the Ottoman Empire that was being ruled by who? Edomite Muslims. This is what happened.
And yo, this is what I'm trying to say. Like, you see what he's bringing out? but it correlates. It's like we'll try to compartmentalize it, but really it all goes together. That's what I'm trying to say. Like when we bringing out these things, when the teacher's bringing out certain things, it goes together. Don't be like, this is over here. That's gonna mess you up. It's not gonna allow you to connect the dots the way you're supposed to connect the dots.
Septimius
Severus.
Yeah, also research pernicious niger.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Pernicious niger.
God, yo. Yo. I just read about that's all.
Hold on. Not everybody.
I was excited. Is that it on that? Go ahead.
Hold on. Let the teacher teach.
Continuing on page 75, they colonized complementary images and began to infer that whiteness was the image of goodness. The most tragic aspect of their colonization of image was their colonization of the image of God and the characters in the Bible. This is the period when the Europeans began to infer.
In a roundabout way, he just said that the characters in the Bible are black. If you caught it. Go ahead. Read that part again.
The most tragic aspect of their colonization of image was their colonization of the image of God and the characters in the Bible.
See, you got it. All right, no, go ahead. Let's go ahead though.
This is the period when the Europeans began to infer that the world was waiting in darkness for Europeans to bring the light.
Wow.
This book has both a historical and a topical meaning that is still very much with us. Totally aside from opening up the Caribbean islands, North and South America for European exploration, Christopher Columbus had set in motion for the rationale for the destruction of an indigenous population that he mistakenly referred to as Indians.
But that's not true, because we know and we have the records that Cristobal Colon knew, in fact, where Israel was, and he set out to go and capture these people. But we'll get there later in the lesson. That's the part of the book that was off, but it was on purpose. He didn't just, hey, that's that God's people. No, it wasn't like that. But that's it on that?
Yep.
So we'll hold on. So one important thing, I want to come back to this part. We're actually going to come back there, but one important thing he said was when we start to get beat and we started to get weakened, our rules started to weaken, and they began to set up shop, that there was famines, right? Matter of fact, before I get that, I want you to read your sources because I'm going somewhere different.
Come. This is the history of the Byzantine Jews. I'm not even supposed to be giving y'all none of this yet. But this is the history of the Byzantine Jews by Eli Cohen.
Yo, listen up carefully, man.
The history of the Byzantine Jews by Eli Cohen. This is on page 25. According to the Samaritan Chronicles of 43, in the 12th year of the pontificate of the high priest Nathaniel, Zaid, the king of Edom, Isurian, Zeno, the emperor of Rome, Isurian was called the king of Edom, right? And this is to prove the next source. This is a folio from the 19th century, iconophile Koldov Psalter. This is what it's called. The Koldov Psalter. That's Chludov. Psalter. Psalter. Likening the iconolist shown painting over an image of Christ with the soldiers who crucified him. So this is the very first evidence of people whitewashing images in the Byzantine Empire, and the Isurians did it. These are Edomites. I got two more sources. Oliver Cromwell? That's Oliver Cromwell. This is Science and Literature by Monica Schmidt-Emmons. This is on page 149. Ethnological and popular literature repeatedly referred to Jews as the Negroes of Europe, as Swarthy, African, mulatto, Jewish, Negroid, and as members of a mongrel dark-skinned race. Got one more.
Bring it up.
One more. This is from the Sephardic Atlantic, Colonial Histories and Post-Colonial Perspectives by Sina, I can't read her last name, Jonathan Scorch, right? This is on page 168. It says, early modern Jews were not automatically white, but they were easily counted among Black people.
Come on, man.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Come on, man.
Upcoming PowerPoint. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Go ahead, bring out your precept.
This is First Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 48. And lay open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. So just to go over what Yahweh and Shamach is bringing out, what these heathens caught 4K, painting over Christ, a white man. That's crazy, man.
Iconoclasm.
All right. So we got a different source that we're about to bring out. Go ahead, Barack. Say the name of the book. Put it in the camera.
It says The Conquest of the New World by David E. Stannard.
It's called the American Holocaust.
Oh, now this is also 22. This is chapter 3, page 57. The Spain that Christopher Columbus and his crews left behind just before dawn on August 3rd, 1492.
So listen very carefully, right? The Spain that Christopher Columbus or Cristobal Colon left behind. Go ahead.
As they sailed forth from Palos and out into the Atlantic, was for most of its people a land of violence.
A land of what?
Violence.
Go ahead.
Squalor, treachery, and intolerance. In this respect, Spain was no different from the rest of Europe. Epidemic outbreaks of plague and smallpox, along with the routine attacks of measles, influenza, diphtheria, typhus, typhoid fever, and more, frequently swept European cities and towns clean of 10 to 20% of their populations at a single stroke. Indeed, for centuries, an individual's life chances in Europe's pest-out cities were so poor that the natural populations of the towns were in perpetual decline that was offset only by in-migration from the countryside. In migration, says one historian.
So they didn't just beat us and then start prospering. This is what I'm trying to paint for y'all. They was even considering enslaving their own people, right? Famines, masses, they was having disease. Go ahead, keep going.
Famine too was common. What J.H. Eliot has said of 16th century Spain had held true throughout the continent for generations beyond memory. The rich ate and ate to excess, watched by 1,000 hungry eyes as they consumed their gargantuan meals.
So everybody was poor except for the rich. And they would have tables, like you see in the movies, tables of food for no reason when they could help feed the poor, while the poor is starving, right? That's the rich was eating lavishly, is what they're saying. Go ahead.
The slightest fluctuation in food prices could have caused the sudden deaths of additional tens of thousands who lived on the margins of perpetual hunger.
Keep going.
So precarious was the existence of these multitudes in France that as late as the 17th century, each average increase in the price of wheat or millet directly killed a proportion of the French population equal to nearly twice the percentage of Americans who died in the Civil War.
So you got to understand, starvation and disease was really killing them off when they beat us. right? When the Renaissance came, it wasn't just, oh, they started prospering. This is the condition that they was going through, right? Go ahead.
That was the 17th century when times were getting better. In the 15th and 16th centuries, prices fluctuated constantly, leading to people to complain, as the Spanish agriculturalists did in 1513, that today a pound of mutton costs as much as a whole sheep used to, a loaf as much as a fanega, which is a bushel and a half of wheat. Skipping down, roadside ditches filled with stagnant water served as public latrines in the cities of the 15th century, and they would continue to do so for centuries to follow. So too would other noxious habits and public health hazards of the time persist on into the future.
Listen to this.
From the practice of leaving the decomposing offal of butchered animals to fester in the streets.
So they had disgusting butchered animals just left rotting in the street. Go ahead.
To London's special problem. As historian Lawrence Stone puts it, one of Poor's holes. These were large, deep.
So they used to have deep ditches in the streets, deep ditches filled with dead bodies. Now, I don't know if anybody been around a dead body. One dead body, it stinks. Like it stinks so bad, it'll make you like nauseous, throw up. Go ahead. They had ditches filled with dead bodies, right? This is the state of Spain. This is the state of Europe at the time. Go ahead. Yeah, because the wars that they had no what? Ethnic. They didn't have an economy. So I'm kind of jumping the gun, but they had to go get an economy. And who was their economy? Go ahead. But I just want to paint the picture of how demoralized the state that they was. They beat us, but they didn't have no money. They didn't have no food. They was bedridden with diseases. It's gonna get it. Go ahead.
These pits were large, deep, open pits in which were laid the bodies of the poor side by side, row upon row. But when the pit was filled with bodies, it was finally covered over with earth.
So when the pits were filled all the way up to the top, then it was covered with earth. Go ahead.
As one contemporary quoted from Stone, delicately observed, how noisome the stench is that arises from these holes so stowed with the dead bodies, especially in sultry reasons and after rain. Along with the stench and repulsive appearance of the openly displayed dead, human and animal alike, a modern visitor.
So with dead bodies and dead animals laid in the street, that's disgusting. Right? Go ahead. That's where Cristobal Colon was coming from. Go ahead.
A modern visitor.
It's page 58 in American Holocaust.
So now we're on.
Yeah, finish it.
Along with the stench and repulsive appearance of the openly displayed dead, human and animal alike, a modern visitor to a European city in this era would be repelled by the appearance and the vile aromas given off by the living as well. Most people never bathe.
Read that again.
Most people never bathe.
Most people never bathe, yo. And you have dead bodies and dead animals. They never bathe. Watch this. Go ahead. How long?
Not once in an entire lifetime.
Yo, they never took a bath in their life in this time, yo. Certain people, that's how it was, man. That's the state of the people. You gotta understand what place they're in at this time. So they beat us, and now they're dying of starvation, disease. People aren't bathing. It's crazy. Right? Go ahead.
Almost everyone had his or her brush with smallpox and other deforming diseases.
everybody's brush had smallpox. How dirty do you have to be for that to happen? Yo, go ahead. That's good.
Almost everyone had his or her brush with smallpox and other deforming diseases that left survivors partially blinded, pock-marked, or crippled, while it was norm for men and women to have bad breath from the...
It was normal for them, breath stinking. Imagine, right? Imagine, like, you know, in the morning, you gotta clean the gunk off your tongue. Imagine the layers that they must have had.
Come on.
Yo,
I just want to touch on something, right? It says the deforming disease that left survivors partially blinded.
yo.
I'm just thinking, like, you know, pink eye, if you ever had it, it really shuts your eye down. It's just a massive, like, glunk of bacteria. Like, you know, us wrestlers, you know, there's so much bacteria that you wipe your eyes, or after boxing with the gloves, you wipe your eyes. It's over. Like, these people are blinded.
20 minutes crying.
That's what happened with QUON.
Yo,
You're just blinded by how much.
go ahead though. Keep reading. I'm gonna try to get
While it was the norm for men and women to have bad breath from the rotting teeth and constant stomach disorders, which can be documented from many sources,
yo.
while suppurating ulcers, eczema, scabs, running sores, and other nauseating skin diseases were extremely common and often lasted for years.
So that's the state that he was coming from, right? We're gonna I'm gonna try to, like, you know, take my time, but at the same time I'm gonna try to get through this as much as possible. But go back to Christopher Columbus and American Holocaust, page 22.
You want to highlight it?
That's why
the
I
highlight.
was gonna say that's why it's called the bottomless pit in the scriptures, because of lack of resources. You know where they're coming from. No, nasty.
It's disgusting, man. Go ahead.
This is page 22 of Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust by
Never took a bath.
John Henry Clark. Now let's look at the world from 1400 to 1600 before they come to what is called the New World, which was not new at all. During the Crusades, the Europeans had exploited each other to the point where Europe was about to explode within itself.
You see that? So that's the thing. Europe was going to explode within itself. Why? They didn't have an economic backing. So I'm trying to get you guys to realize they didn't have an economic backing. So they beat us, right? After they beat us, they don't have food. They don't have money. They don't have a currency. Okay? Y'all understanding? Y'all following me?
I don't understand that black gold is a derogatory term. You were the financial.
Right.
You were the means of gold, their currency. That goes far beyond what y'all think of. Like, it's very disrespectful to me.
Right.
That's actual history.
That's exactly what we're heading into. Go ahead.
The Catholic Church and its need for funds to build these massive cathedrals and to support parasitic priests had begun to fleece to the people to the point where, where the faithful began to have some serious questions about the role of the church.
You could just go to page 85. But I just wanted them to see that part, right? That little part. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get through some stuff.
We messed up, but they took it way to the left.
Chill. I got you. And I got a preset for that too. Just chill.
So you just angry. So
Oh, not yet. You're not angry yet. Trust me.
So
You're not angry yet. I'm about to. You're not angry yet.
So y'all know the prominent. He just read it, right? But y'all know the prominent factor on how the Edomites conquered us, right?
How did they conquer us when they had no?
He just read it. The Catholic Church.
Right.
The Catholic Church created secret societies.
That I was gonna say that, but I'm trying to go ahead though. You can explain
The
it.
Catholic Church created secret societies. One of the main ones known nowadays is the Jesuit order.
Order. Yep.
The Jesuit order was infiltrating us.
Just like
What did they just say? He shall kill them in peace. They're double tongued. They're gonna lie to you. We're your friends. They're gonna serve under you. And then by more and more deceit, they eventually flipped it on you. You understand? And these are the elites. Most of the people he's reading about are the peasants. These are the lower class. There was no middle class.
Right.
You were either elite or you was just a modern day trailer trash.
Trailer trash.
You understand? You was in the hut trash.
Never
bathed.
Never bathed,
Ak. Never bathed. Say it again.
Never. It says never bathed in their lifetime.
But they did it by deceit.
Just how much?
You know what I'm saying? It's all
imagine
I don't even want to.
I can't even. Yo, right? Let me just tell you. All right. Okay, right? It said in their lifetime, we used to have a mental health patient. Obviously they suffer from mental health. She would never take a bath. Yo, the smell was so excruciating as soon as you entered the floor. Now, she was a one-to-one. A one-to-one means that you have to watch, because like she was suicidal. She would like swallow shit. That means that you have to go with them everywhere they go. Me, when I was my turn on one-to-one, I was like 10, 20 yards away from her, so I could smell her. But anyways, the women, they would have to go in the bathroom with her to take a shower. Yo, she never used to take a shower. One of the mental health workers that was a female went inside the bathroom with her. And when she finally washed her vagina, she said there was black crust on her vagina. So now, right? I had to force it. I had to. I'm sorry. I had to. So imagine, Maya can't even believe it. Imagine never.
Come on now.
Imagine not bathing in a lifetime. Never. I just had to. I had to really paint that picture in your mind, man. For real. Yeah, that's disgusting, yo. And then imagine when they.
Come on,
I really thought there was like the Elamites were nasty eating humans, but damn, that shit right there.
That's a different level. Good. We know you was done. You was done.
Yeah.
Almost. Go ahead, get that in.
It was just deceit, man. That's how they took over. And eventually,
the double tongue.
They had the blessing of the sword, man.
Exactly. So first came the double tongue, the deceit, then came the sword.
Wasn't the Knights Templar part of that too?
The Knights Templar were Jake. That was Jake.
You think they're Knights of Malta?
But they came in through deceit. That's the same time.
That's what I'm saying.
Through deceit. Through deceit, they infiltrated the Knights Templar. But the Knights Templar was wicked ass Israelites. Wicked ass Israelites. We created Freemasonry, y'all. That was us. Because we were into idolatry. Why do you think the Mason Temple was formed after what? Solomon's Temple. Because those were Israelites, the wicked ass Israelites. Huh? That's where you get the whole Calvinism. No, not that's way ahead of time. That's off. Yeah. I'm talking about the origin of it. It's Kabbalism. Kabbalism is Jewish, but it's Israelite mysticism. You know what I'm saying? This is ancient. We've been wicked as hell for a long time, huh? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, read that.
Right, this is the same book, page 85. Slavery and the slave trade was the first international investment in capital.
Read that again, please.
Slavery and the slave trade was the first international investment in capital.
Somebody please break that down for me. I gotta make sure everybody's understanding what's going on.
The slave
trade. About to cheat.
The slave trade was the first international investment in capital.
You said it, man. You explained it before, Cap. The black gold, baby.
Basically, that's the economic, like you said, that's the economic way of they making their money. off of
It is.
Yeah. They were
Throughout,
Black gold.
Throughout what?
throughout the world.
Exactly, y'all. Exactly. So now, this begs the question. Was when Christopher Columbus was sent on a mission, was it unintentional that he would find God's people, or was it intentional? It's intentional. And it's in his diaries.
That's right.
He was going specifically to look for a certain people. Everybody on the planet knows that. You don't have to pull it, but that in Judith, what that spy said, what did he say? When they're serving their people, you can't touch them at all. When they're not serving their people, it's a wrap. You could take them. Huh?
They already knew that we were scattered.
Right.
Or
No, they did know. Yeah, they knew we were scattered.
He read second Ezra.
I'm gonna go into that.
Which card? I didn't know where it was.
I'm gonna go into that.
He already knew that we went to a new world.
Yeah, and he read second Ezra, so he said, yeah, 13, I got you. But go ahead, read that.
The slave trade was the first international investment in capital. It was the first large-scale investment that was intercontinental. Many Europeans invested in ships and in the goods and the services taken from these African countries and became independently wealthy.
That's it on that?
Now, want me to read all the way down?
Yeah, all the way down.
But the slave revolts continued. By the end of the 17th century, the picture of slavery began to change
Drastically.
drastically.
Of our slavery.
Can you say that one more time?
No, son.
This entire earth was built off of our slavery. Every prominent country had a hand in our slavery. Everyone.
Go ahead. 27.
You want the bottom?
Everything that's highlighted with the blue, and the blue and the green.
They insist now on building permanent fortification. Portuguese ships had been coming along that coast since 1438. They would take a few slaves out of the country.
When they said that slavery started, 16 something?
No, yeah.
16 something, right?
1663.
What did it just say right there?
1438.
No, don't read that. Don't read that. When they say that slavery started, 16 something, right? Read that again.
I'm confused. 1438.
No,
Oh, the whole thing?
no. Just read. Just keep reading. Just keep reading where you was at.
Portuguese ships had been coming along the coast, that coast, since 1438.
Go
They
down.
would take a few slaves out of the country.
Go ahead. Go down. Drop down. Yep. Blue and green.
They forced their way in and they built Elmina Castle, the first.
That's one of the hugest slave ports in the western Ivory coasts of Africa. They try to beguile, they try to befriend us and no, I'm sorry, the Hamites. They try to befriend Hamites, and they built a huge slave port because we know that Hamites sold us into slavery. And so what they did was they built huge slave ports, and one of them is called, you can look it up to this day, Elmina Castle.
Why is it called the Ivory Coast?
Ivory so expensive.
Are there elephants on the west coast of Africa? No, there's not.
No, there's not.
There's no elephants on the west coast of Africa.
I just think Africa, but they had to do something with doing all that.
In the Hebrew being spoken in during the Dark Ages, how did you say Hebrew? Ivri.
Ivrit.
That's why it was called the Ivory Coast over time, because it was IVRE in the first maps. They were literally saying the Hebrew coast because they knew Israelites were there.
What they actually do with
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anna. Go ahead.
If 36 of the 42 slave fortresses are in Ghana, this tells you that Ghana was the headquarters of the slave trade. I mention this because there is some evidence to indicate that Christopher Columbus was a part of this expedition. He says in his diary, as man and boy, I sailed up and down the Guinea coast, right, Guinea, for 23 years. What was he doing up and down the coast of West Africa for 23 years? He was in the early Portuguese slave trade. This is Christopher Columbus. Now let's go to 1492. In 1492, things happened other than the alleged discovery that was not a discovery at all. Let's deal with the two African events that helped to set certain things in motion. In 1492, Spain was whitened up through the marriage of Queen Isabella
and King Ferdinand.
Devil.
They began now to expel the Moors, the Africans, and the Arabs.
So does anybody know what that's called? That's basically the definition of it. Come on, man. I know y'all be studying, man.
And real quick, you want to know you know how this spiritual this is? Isabella is a rendition of Jezebel.
You don't count.
Yeah.
That's how spiritual this is, man.
She married herself in, right?
Nah, they were both Edomites. They
Alright.
took the throne. Good.
Yep. In 1492, Spain was whitened up through the marriage of Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. They began now to expel the Moors, the Africans, and the Arabs. If they expelled the Jews, and they did, that means that they did not consider the Jews to be white.
Which means that they were
Black.
right. But what was that time called? No.
Spanish.
Spanish what? Spanish Inquisition, right? So that's that. See how that smoothly transitioned into the Spanish Inquisition? I got y'all right now. Some brief mistakes. Yeah, I know. I got this and all. I got you wrong. So this book is called. Yeah.
This book is different. I'm gonna send it to you.
I forgot the name of the book. I don't even want to go to the beginning. Yeah, what's the name of this book? Oh, never mind.
Which one?
Which one? Yeah, I got it. It's this one.
The history of the Inquisition.
So this book is called The History of the Inquisition. Limbrock Philippus is the author.
It's an old book.
The History of the Inquisition. You can start from here. This installation of this tribunal under Ferdinand and Isabella. And then go to the next page. And then after you go to the next page, I got you. Just keep going.
It says the installation of this.
Everybody awake? Everybody follow me?
The installation of this tribunal under Ferdinand and Isabella forms an epoch in the history of Spain, and weighing as an incubus on all freedom in thought and action, was one of the main causes of the decadence of that great country, the effects of which are now so sadly visible. And expelling the Jews.
Expelling the who?
The Jews. Spain.
Which we knew. He said that what? The Jews were what? Go ahead.
Expelling the Jews, Spain gave the greatest blow to her commerce, as in driving out the Mohammedans, she did to her agriculture. Thus, the effects of bigotry and intolerance have recoiled with more lasting evils on the persecutors than on the persecuted.
Right.
In Spain and Portugal language, while more tolerant lands have flourished and are continually acquiring strength. The following are principal sources from which I have derived my facts.
Let's go to the next page.
It says the subject is one which is capable of very considerable elaboration, both as concerns the position and history of the Jews in the peninsula and the workings of the
What peninsula is he talking about?
Iberian.
Go ahead.
And the workings of the Inquisition itself, and I feel that I have rendered but very scant and imperfect justice to a theme at once so interesting and so instructive. I must therefore crave the indulgence of the reader for putting before him a sketch so incomplete, my only excuse being the very limited knowledge of the subject which is generally possessed.
So he's talking about how he got the information. Bang, let's get it. Y'all said, let's get it, so let's get it.
The period when Jewish settlers were first attracted to the Iberian Peninsula, where they afterwards attained so high a position in learning and in wealth.
So this is important because when we was in the Iberian Peninsula, when we was in Spain, we had money. We was ruling. We was of the upper echelons, right? But we was a learned people, right? You got to keep that in mind. Go ahead.
And where for some centuries they so thoroughly acclimatized themselves as almost to forget their captivity and to regard themselves as in a new Judea. Is so,
read that again.
And to regard themselves as in a new Judea is so remote that no reliable historical data exists on the subject. No
That's
doubt
we do that everywhere we go. Like, what's Utah supposed to be? Judah, right? Go ahead.
No doubt the Phoenicians at a very early period traded with various ports on the Mediterranean.
They traded with what?
Various ports on the Mediterranean. And as is well known, the Carthaginians, a people closely allied to them in race, and both to them and to the Hebrews in language, founded several cities and established colonies on the coast. This may probably have given rise to the tradition that Jews were already settled in the peninsula.
Who are the Carthaginians? Huh? Where's Carthage?
It's North Africa, right?
Barack, not supposed to answer, Barack. It's in North Africa. What were they known as?
Merchants.
The Berbers.
Okay.
Barbarians.
See how everything's connected, yo?
Israelites.
Men.
He said you said this before.
Hannibal Barca. Hannibal Barca was the one that began to fight against Rome and then eventually lost Rome in the Third Punic War to Leo Scipio. Right? Leo, the last name Barca is a rendition of Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? That was a name being passed down to a certain tribe. That's another lesson. I got it, man.
That's you see what I'm saying? Listen what I'm saying. Listen what I'm saying. You see how much things that when he was expounding, it roots, it stems from what's being brought out. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a smooth transition. You got to study them. Yeah, it's gonna give you a better picture of what's actually going on. You know. Go ahead.
This may probably have given rise to the tradition that Jews were already settled in the peninsula in the days of Solomon, and that the Tarshish of the Bible was identical with the Tartessus of the ancients.
That's key. Come on.
A district of southern Spain.
Hold on. Read that again.
A district of
Go back when I said Tarshish. Who's Tarshish?
Is that the merchants?
Not the
What
Ethiopians.
in the Bible? Who's
Not the
Tarshish?
Ethiopians. Ishmael?
Come on, man. We gotta do better, man.
Man, Spain.
And look at what he just said. Read that.
And that the Tarshish of the Bible was identical with the Tartessus of the ancients,
In
a district of southern Spain.
a district of what?
Southern Spain,
Wow. He just go ahead. Nobody's awake.
the principal city of which was Gades, the modern Cadiz. It was also stated that Nebuchadnezzar made conquests in Spain and sent captives from the vanquished kingdom of Judah to colonize it. Damn,
Yo, are you guys listening to us?
he did that?
Are y'all listening?
Did what?
Are y'all listening?
Said he said.
Y'all ain't excited, man. Never mind. Go ahead.
Read it again. Read it again. Read it again from the top. Bob.
It was also stated that Nebuchadnezzar made conquests in Spain and sent captives from the vanquished kingdom of Judah to colonize it.
Y'all know what that is, bro? Like,
So Nebuchadnezzar used us in his military to conquer parts of Europe. And don't you think they would be us that also stood there?
No, I got that. I got that. I'm talking about. I forgot what Tarshish was. My mind's just-
Yo, look at the correlation.
Why
forgot
we
what Tarshish
used us? No, why we was already ruling?
No,
we were already in
were
the
in
other
the
side.
city.
We already in there.
You see the correlation. That's crazy, y'all. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm still stuck on the Tarshish. I forgot what that was.
Second
Right, huh?
Kings, the Second Kings, it doesn't give like the external elaboration of the rulership of what we actually did. You know what I'm saying? So this is like history is very, very important to study and learn. Like, key to it, like, those are- because external sources outside of like the Bible is much more proof that the Bible actually is.
You're right, yo.
His inscriptions don't even say that he did. That's amazing.
Right, but this particularly, like what you just read, is very heavy and important, because that goes into the account of Second Kings, bro. Like that, this needs to be taken very seriously.
People look at old captivities like if it's not new,
That's what
like
I'm,
if it's not happening.
that's,
We're in the American military now.
that's what I'm trying to.
Right now, we're in politics right now. Daniel, how high was Daniel in politics, Shia?
He was
third.
Like, bro,
He was right there,
Where's my pen?
but he was an Israelite. But you know what he still said? My people are in captivity.
Right, yo. You like you
Unlike
see.
the politicians now, we don't really give it.
Exactly. That's the point. Any captivity we've been in, we've been prosperous, but we were also in slavery.
Right.
In every captivity. You know what I'm saying?
You see what's going on?
Yeah, but the mentality, the modern mentality now is that we're trying to.
That's
be
not a
prosperous.
modern mentality.
Well, actually.
That's ancient.
Nothing to do under the sun.
That's ancient.
So basically, shit.
But there's always been
Thank you.
prophets.
See, it's hitting you. That's
But there's
what I'm
always been
saying.
prophets.
It's hitting
You don't
bro.
think Daniel had a group of men like this chopping it up with the scriptures that he had at the time? Yo, Jeremiah, my man.
If everybody's getting it on Zoom, write a con.
I understood. I was just stuck on the question. Oh, no, slide. I understood, yeah. During that time, the book was still sealed, so they were just studying Torah.
But my point is, like, look at. That's why you gotta read, yo. You can't compartmentalize it, yo. Go ahead. My fault. That's me. Go ahead.
For years.
That's page 2, right?
Daniel was studying Isaiah.
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right.
Oh, you stopped off.
It was also stated that Nebuchadnezzar made conquests in Spain and sent captives from the vanquished kingdom of Judah to colonize them. These legends, fanciful as they are entirely unworthy of credence, were studiously kept alive by the Spanish Jews of later times. Certain it is, however, that Jews very early found their way to the peninsula, and that when, on the fall of the Roman Empire, the Goths and Vandals conquered the country, large numbers of them were already established.
You see what's going on here? Now y'all see. Now y'all getting hyped. See?
All right, real quick.
Now y'all.
I employ y'all, right? Now,
See, that's
a
how
lot of people will look at things like, who knows about the midrash? You know that's in the scriptures, right? The midrash is in the scriptures. Now, I'm not telling you to take everything that's in there as doctrine, but there is something known as oral tradition that we've always passed it down. And you know it's in the book of Tobit, right? The midrash is in the book of Tobit. That's why he had a marriage certificate. That's not in the Torah. That's in the midrash. The midrash is also spoken about in the book of Chronicles. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is that source that he's quoting, that, oh, the Jews said this, that this happened, that's in the midrash, because through history, we've always wrote things down. In the midrash, guess what it says the color of Shem is black. In the midrash, guess where it says a lot of Israelites scattered after Roman persecution into Africa. And this was us writing it down. But guess who has our midrash in their possession? The fake Jews. And they're like this at the wall with it. Wailing at the wall with it. So these are certain things we have to, once again, don't take it as doctrine. I'm not saying to believe everything that's in there.
Let's take the meat out.
But there's certain things that are in there that'll be like, this lines up with the scriptures. This lines up with this history book I was just reading. This lines up with Shamach's class, Barak's class, Yeshaya's class, and everybody else that teaches.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Let me
get
the precept.
You jumped up. Was it out on
Oh, there's a paragraph.
Oh.
Let me find this precept.
All right. Keep reading as you find the precept.
Even under Roman rule, the first, certain it is, however, that Jews very early found their way to the peninsula, and that when on the fall of the Roman Empire, the Goths and Vandals conquered the country, large numbers of them were already established in various districts throughout the land. Even under Roman rule, the first restrictions against the Jews were promulgated at the council held at Elvira or Liberis near Cordova soon after the year 300, but the general confusion which followed the eruption of the barbarians and the toleration of the earlier Gothic kings who were Arians afforded a period of comparative repose for more than 2 centuries. When, however, at the end of the 6th century, the Roman Catholic form of Christianity became the recognized religion of Gothic Spain, fresh edicts of intolerance followed fast from various councils, held principally in Toledo, and soon after, we begin to hear of those forced and consequently feigned conversions, which in later times.
No, jump to page 35.
Page 35. The opening of the year 1481 saw the installation in its more extended and terrible form of that horrible court, which stands unequaled for acts of atrocity perpetrated in the name of religion, and which, under the pretext of purging Spain from heresy and Judaism, gradually involved the whole country in ruin, from which it has never been able to recover. Since the church claimed no jurisdiction.
So basically what it's saying is we was in Spain. They basically cleansed us out of Spain, right? Through atrocities. Like, we're not going to be able to get through all of it, but because I want to go somewhere else. But one thing that they did was they tied a man, they hung him by his hands and his feet and they tied stones. They tied stones on his feet, and they hung him in a rope with his head, his hands on a rope and his head. And what they would do is they would like pull him up or catapult him up and then drop him. Boom. And the stones would dislocate his arms and his knees, and then they'll cut him up again and drop him again. Then his leg would completely fall up. Then they'll do it again. And those were us that they was doing that to. Why? Because sometimes, like during certain periods, we was trying to flee and migrate. We even tried to pay the Catholic Church, but they didn't want our money. They wanted to get rid of us. And some of us were still trying to keep our Passovers, first fruits, things of that nature. If they seen us doing any of that, they punished us severely. But some of us migrated, and some of us was still wanting to follow our customs, and we got punished for it. You know what I'm saying? But that's what I mean. That's you got anything?
Yeah, you get Mark 7 and 8. You get 2 Chronicles 13 and 22. I'm gonna show you something.
Like there's so much on the Spanish Inquisition. I'm pretty sure one of us is gonna do a class on it privately on it. You know what I'm saying? Just based off of the Spanish Inquisition. There's so much. There's books and books and books on it. You know what I'm saying?
Read that.
This is Mark chapter.
I want Salaki and Malak. I have to have it. Yeah. 2 Chronicles 13 and 22.
2 Chronicles chapter 13, verse 22. And the rest of the acts of Abiyah and his ways and his sayings are written in the story of the prophet Iddo.
Are written in the story of the prophet Iddo, right? Look up, Barak, do me a favor. Look up the word for story, Baba Kusha. Watch this.
So 2 Chronicles
13, 22. No, story.
So the word for story here is H4097. The word is Madarash.
Midrash. This is where you get the word from. So there's been oral tradition being passed down in the scriptures. This is the point I'm bringing it up. And you see it's used more in the script, only a couple more times in the scriptures. So this is what this is. But be careful if you're going to read it, because it also has commentary on the scriptures. And we lost the knowledge of the truth for a long time. You understand? Now get Mark and YHWH warned us about this. Get that in Mark.
It's Mark chapter 7 and verse 8. For laying aside the commandment of God.
Because what did we do? We laid aside the commandments of God. And we followed oral tradition more than we followed the Torah.
There we go.
We do it till this day.
Yeah.
We follow after a Christian pastor, but we're not following what it says in the book. What does it say here? Read what it says here. Go ahead, finish it up.
As the washing of pots and cups and many other such like things you do.
That's all I have.
Y'all got what y'all brought up? All right, everybody's still up.
Because a lot of the stuff he's bringing out is in the midrash. There's two types of them. I forget the names. I got them in my notes. But there's two types of them, right? And these are the ones. If you read it, everything he's bringing out, especially what he just said about Nebuchadnezzar and Tarshish, that's all in the midrash. All of that is in the midrash. That's what he's quoting.
I can't believe he did that.
All right. 2 Ezra 13 and 40. You're gonna
Read this first?
Nope. After.
Second Ezra chapter 13 and verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which are carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High then shewed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. The same region is called Arsar.
Yo, when you used to Google Arsar back in the day, it used to say America.
Right.
That's crazy. But now they got hit. It's like, nah. Chill.
Said, nah, these niggas waking up.
Yeah,
Take this
that's
off,
what you
boy.
get. Chill out. Go ahead. I'm just going over this. Everybody knows this, but this is a key point that I want you guys to pay attention to. Which they never kept in their own land. No. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. Continue. You're on 46 now?
Yep. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come.
47, finish up 47.
The highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace.
Read what you got. We're on Christopher Columbus and the American Holocaust again. Page 29.
Michael Bradley and others have now located those who financed the ships. They were all Jewish bankers who were told, give me your money or give me your life. They were the chief translators on the boat. He had discovered from African sailors who had already gone to the New World, there was a possibility of gold in another direction. I suspect that Columbus turned his ships in another direction. He also discovered that there was a current in the sea.
There was a what?
A current in the sea. If you pick it up at a certain time of the year, it will push you almost straight into the Caribbean islands.
Right.
That current.
So I remember Yahweh brought this out mad long ago. Is there's different currents, y'all, right? And if you go in those currents at a certain time of the year, it will push you out towards different parts of the earth. The Lord held still the flood, so that way they could make their voyage straight to the Caribbean and straight to America. Does everybody understand that? Yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
That current took him there. This is why ships were lost coming back, because if you come back too soon, the current reverses itself once every 6 months.
See that? The current reverses itself once every 6 months. So it's a current that's going to lead you someplace, and then it reverses in 6 months. The Lord held still that. All the springs, all the currents, so that way we could properly come over here. And it took a year and a half. That's crazy, right?
That's far.
That's
All
right. Let's get Deuteronomy 28 and 21. I'm skipping stuff for y'all, man.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 21. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it.
Read this. 77 start from 2 weeks.
This is American Holocaust. This is page 77. 2 weeks or so of intermittent struggle later, says Sahagún, Cortez demonstrated the courage and skill that all brave captains do in the time of greatest need. He ordered a retreat from the city under cover of night. In retreat, however, Cortez left behind an invisible killer
An invisible killer. Go ahead.
that would prevent the Aztecs from following and destroying his broken army. And that would begin the process of wreaking.
Because this is a battle that we won. We was winning. They wasn't ready for the Aztecs. They didn't know that we got down like that. And then, as he says, retreat, he's like, oh, I know it's gonna get them. Because why? We're a very clean people. They dirty ass. We're clean. And so they left what?
The microscopic smallpox bacillus. Smallpox was a fearsome killer wherever it existed, but among the people with no previous exposure to the disease,
Clean.
it was catastrophic. It had first appeared in the New World in 1518 on the huge and dying island of Hispaniola, a sort
I
of
would check
dreadful,
that date, but go ahead.
a sort of dreadful coup de grace to that once enchanting place's dwindling few survivors. After being released among the Aztecs, wrote Cortez's secretary Francisco Lopez de Gamora, it spread from one Indian to another, and they, being so numerous and eating and sleeping together, quickly infected the whole country. In most houses, all the occupants died, for since it was their custom to bathe as a cure for all diseases, they bathed for the smallpox and were struck down. Gamora continues.
So that's on that. So I just brought out how one of the curses was we'll be struck with pestilence throughout the whole land.
Yeah, I know why specifically GADAL was attacked first.
It's strong as far as war is concerned.
Troops,
Troops. Winners know the land too.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49.
He said a name in there that I would want all of y'all to look up. It's Sahagun.
Oh yeah.
Sahagun.
I'll read Deuteronomy.
I forget his first name.
Yeah, no, when y'all was
I forget his first name, but this is a primary source, kind of like Bartolome de las Casas. This is a primary source. He said some heavy stuff.
Yo, Bartolome though, de las Casas, yo.
Nah, I'm not even talking about Bartolome.
I'm just saying, yo.
Sahagun. Yes.
Bernardino.
That's him right there.
Y'all beat me.
This dude right here said some heavy stuff in some of his writings, and he drew some heavy stuff in his writings that can validify that we are the 12 tribes.
Like this?
We got that.
We're gonna try to get some.
That's the mission.
Khan.
Nice try.
Go ahead, read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far,
Right?
from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
Right. So you got to understand, right? We was living in peace, man. Even though we had, I can't say that we was living in peace. I can't say that because you had wars between each other, but we had our time. The buffalo, we respected the buffalo. Like the land was really filled with milk and honey. Like we prospered, we planted, we had clean agriculture. We had a bunch of things. Yeah, so even some of us traded with one another, but you did have like the Kamachi, they was, man, but yo, we was prospering. And then a nation from the what? Read that again.
From far off, as from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
Keep going.
Verse 51, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle.
Does anybody know what happened to the buffalo when Esau came? Go ahead. Go ahead.
And the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave not leave either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee.
Hey, you laughed at what Barzal said. But what Barzal said is heavy. Because It was named after the Buffalo Soldiers. Who were the Buffalo Soldiers?
1861.
I know they were black.
They were Gadites.
Come on.
They were Gadites. That's why they were called the Buffalo Soldiers. They cover it up and say, yeah, they were black. Yeah, they were black. Indians.
When I was working over there, they had a.
Look at the gun, man.
They had a monument that said that they had to fight the Buffalo Soldiers because there was a violent people towards them, like something like.
Verse 52.
And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee.
Con, read page 83.
This is American Holocaust, page 83. Numerous reports from numerous reporters tell of Indians being led to the mines in columns, chained together at the neck, and decapitated if they faltered.
Where did the first slavery started? As far as transatlantic slave trade, where did it first start at? Northern Kingdom. Go ahead.
Of children trapped and burned alive in their houses, or stabbed to death because they walked too slowly. Of the routine cutting off of women's breasts and the tying of heavy gourds.
They shall not regard the old, the young, the woman, or the children. Go ahead.
And the tying of heavy gourds to their feet before tossing them to drown in lakes and lagoons.
That's the babies. Go ahead.
Of babies taken from their mother's breast, killed and left as roadside markers. Of stray Indians dismembered and sent back to their villages with their chopped off hands and noses strung around their necks.
Chill.
Of pregnant and confined women, children, old men.
You know, reading this, right? Like, I know that I always say, I don't understand how the Lord's gonna pay them back double, but I finally understand, yo, now. Like, I get it. Like, I can picture what double looks like now. Go ahead.
Of pregnant and confined women, children, old men, and as many as they could capture, thrown into pits in which stakes had been embedded and left stuck on the stakes until the pits were filled, and much, much more. One favorite sport of the conquistadors was dogging. Traveling as they did with packs of armored wolfhounds and mastiffs that were raised on a diet of human flesh. They were trained to disbowel.
No, they were raised on the diet of human flesh. Keep reading.
And were trained to disembowel Indians. The Spanish used the dogs to terrorize slaves and to entertain the troops. An entire book, Dogs of the Conquest, has been published recently, detailing the exploits of these animals as they accompanied their masters throughout the course of the Spanish depredations. A properly fleshed dog, these authors say, could pursue a savage as zealously and effectively as a deer or a boar. To many of the conquerors, the Indian was merely another savage animal, and the dogs were trained to pursue and rip apart their human quarry with the same zest as they felt when hunting wild beasts.
Are y'all listening?
Vasco Nunez de Balboa was famous for such exploits, and like others, he had his own favorite dog, Leon Kiko, or Little Lion, a reddish-colored cross between a greyhound and a mastiff that was rewarded at the end of a campaign for the amount of killing it had done. On one much celebrated occasion, Leon Kiko tore the head off an Indian leader in Panama while Balboa and his men and other dogs completed the slaughter of everyone in a village that had the ill fortune to lie in their journey's path. Heads of human adults do not come off easily, so the authors of Dogs of the Conquest seem to correct in calling this a remarkable feat, although Balboa's men usually were able to do quite well by themselves. As one contemporary description of this same massacre notes, the Spaniard cut off the arm of one, the leg or hip of another, and from some of their heads at one stroke, like butchers cutting up beef and mutton for the market. 600, including the cacique, were thus slain like brute beasts. Vasco ordered 40 of them to be torn to pieces by dogs.
You know what?
Keep
The
on.
problem is that when you don't hear this, let me speak for myself. You get complacent.
That's right. That's why I said in the beginning of this,
You don't
remember it when you go to camp. Remember this when you go to camp, y'all. Remember this, y'all. Remember it.
I need to work on my memory.
Remember it, y'all. Because this is what, yo, this is what we went through, y'all.
Them motherfuckers that are the one saved, like the chick, with that little demon white,
Oh,
Mike came up. And tried to confront you with the car, see my phone.
man.
Remember this,
Buried
y'all.
it.
Yo,
She wanted to try to save this dude, man.
remember. Go ahead, keep going. Trust me, y'all.
Just as the Spanish soldiers seem to have particularly enjoyed testing the sharpness of their yard-long rapier blades on the bodies of Indian children, so their dogs seem to find the soft bodies of infants especially tasty.
Especially tasty.
Wow.
Your newborn, y'all. Especially tasty. Go ahead.
And thus the accounts of the invading conquistadors and the padres who traveled with them are filled with detailed descriptions of young Indian children routinely taken from their parents and fed to the hungry animals.
Stop right there. Deuteronomy 28 and 30.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
Start from right here.
Thou shalt.
No, you good.
All right.
Typically, right here. Start from typically.
Page
It
84.
said, "Thou shalt betroth a wife," and what?
And another man shall lie with her.
Hold that right there. Go ahead.
Typically,
Is everybody awake, huh? Yo, picture this in your mind, please. Remember, yo, these are people who had their way with us. Remember, our women are looking for us to what? Protect them. We're being decapitated, our heads being decapitated. We're being eaten by dogs. The babies, they're being eaten by dogs, especially tasty, like a little Scooby snack or something. Right? Look, just imagine, try to put yourself there, yo. Try to put yourself there. Go ahead.
typically when an enslaved workman returned from the mines at the end of the day, the friars reported not only was he beaten or whipped because he had not brought up enough gold, but further, most often, he was bound hand and foot and flung under the bed like a dog.
He was bound hand and foot, flung under the bed. So he's tied up right now. What's about to happen?
Before the Spanish foreman lay down directly over him.
So he's under the bed. The foreman or whoever he was working for is on top of the bed. Go ahead.
Before the Spanish foreman lay down directly over him with his wife.
Yo. Keep reading.
These were just precursors to the open trade in enslaved women that the Spanish delighted in as the decades were on. Native women or Indias were gambled away in card games and traded for other objects of small value, while stables of them were rented out to sailors who desired sexual accompaniment during their travels up and down the coast. If an Indian attempted to resist, she was whipped or tortured or burned alive. Even when the laws were passed to curb the more extreme of such atrocities, the penalties were.
So if she tried to have some integrity and dignity and hold her husband down, like nah, she was burned alive. Go ahead.
When, for example, an uncooperative Nicaraguan Indian woman was burned to death in her hut by a Spaniard who tried to rape her, he was prosecuted by the governor and fined 5 pesos.
That's crazy. Deuteronomy 28:56 and read through 57.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 56. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, Her eyes shall be evil toward the husband
Right.
of her bosom.
Why? Because he can't protect her. He can't do anything for her in this time. Woman's supposed to be gracefully gliding around you. Her foot will be put to work. Go ahead.
And towards her son, and toward her daughter, and towards her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them.
Concord, eat. People like, what? They gonna eat the baby?
That did
Nah.
really happen though.
Con, but go ahead. Concord, eat real fast. Whoever could get it.
That's what you or boy that was saying that the sins and the things that happen like this will continue in generations after. It will be remembered.
Who got it? Okay, read it.
Shit started coming down.
To eat, literally or figuratively. Burn up,
To what?
burn up, consume,
Consume,
devour,
devour.
dine.
Right, so it was death. They killed their children. Right? We're gonna prove it. Read this right here. This highlighted part.
Those women who were not valued as enslaved concubines were forced to do backbreaking work, writes one modern historian. Some of the Indias, even as late as the 1580s, were being broken physically, their insides literally bursting in some instances.
Yo,
From
their
the-
insides were. Oh, go ahead.
From the heavy loads they had to carry. Unable to endure more, some of them committed suicide by hanging, starving themselves, or eating poisonous herbs. And comanderos forced them to work in open fields where they tried to care for their children. They slept outside and there gave birth to and reared their babies, who were often bitten by poisonous insects. Mothers occasionally killed their offspring at birth to spare them future agonies.
There you go.
Other working mothers present at a poignant image when we hear of them returning home after weeks of months of separation from their children, only to find that they had died or they had been taken away.
Page 94 and 95. Can read right here. Just read all that.
It's actually called
Basement theology. Page 94. Thus, for example, by the 1630s, those Indians still living in the Municipal Council of Salvador, who were able to work for wages earned on average between 1/8 and 1/16 of what black slaves were paid, and often such wages were doled out in flour, cloth, and
My fault.
alcohol.
Just jump down here from the 50. My fault.
From the very beginning, from at least that day in 1493, when the very beautiful Carib woman fought off the violent advances of Michele de Cueno before being thrashed with the rope and then raped by him, the people of the Americas resisted. None did so more successfully than the Maya, who combined retreats into the deep jungle cover of the Yucatan lowlands, where, as one historian puts it, the pursuing conquistadors soon found themselves adrift in a green expanse of forest without food to eat, souls to convert, or labor to exploit, with relentless military counterattacks that finally led to the temporary expulsion of the Spanish in 1638. And neither did any people resist with more symbolism than the Maya, who made a practice of destroying not only the Spanish soldiers, but whatever foreign things the Spanish had brought with them.
Right,
Or
so the
si-
Mayans
Who's the
have.
modern day Maya? What tribe? No.
That's Aztecs.
Zebulon. Who's modern day Zebulon?
Central America.
Central America. And what is Central America known for? Some of the worst gangs on earth. They can bang. It's just the scriptures coming to life. That's why the Bible also says Zebulon was ordered to keep rank.
Mhm.
That's why they're so even powerful in the corrupt way. Because they can keep rank. They can keep order. That Hefe, they ain't trying to be Hefe. He could be a soldier because Hefe is Hefe. That's how they work. They're very militant minded till this day. Yeah.
That's good. But
Zechariah?
Not yet.
The Maya, who made a practice of destroying not only the Spanish soldiers, but whatever foreign things the Spanish had brought with them, horses, cattle, cats, dogs, trees, and plants.
That was a plane.
In the end, however, the Maya too lost 95 of every 100 of their people, a price for their resistance that most outsiders, if they know of it, can hardly hope to comprehend. But by the time the 16th century had ended, perhaps 200,000 Spaniards had moved their lives to the Indies, to Mexico, to Central America, and points further to the south. In contrast, by that time, somewhere between 60 million and 80 million natives from whose lands were dead.
60 to 80 million natives. That's our people, man.
Even then, the carnage was not over.
Even then, the carnage was not over. 60 to 80 million. Guess what? That's just Israel. That's not even Judah together. That's not all of us together. Go ahead, yo. That's crazy.
So if somebody comes to you and says, well, 80 million, 100 million, because those are just
estimates.
It's higher than that. All of these people died. So how are, if you're saying the Aztecs and the Mayans are Israelites, how are you saying the majority of people there are Israelites? How would you explain that with the Bible verse? If hundreds and hundreds of millions of natives died and were killed and slaughtered, right? How are we saying that the majority of Mexicans, the majority of Brazilians, the majority of Puerto Ricans are Israelites? How would you answer that? Book, chapter, verse. No philosophy.
Wow.
No.
I'll go. Deuteronomy 28, verse
Nope.
46.
How would that answer it?
Can I read it first?
I know what it says.
Read it first.
These curses shall be upon you for a sign and a wonder.
No, he's saying he's saying with all these people gone, how can you still prove that they're predominantly the Brazilians? They're predominantly
majority, exactly.
That's what he's asking.
If we know now, if I'm a dude and I'm coming to you and I said, my yard, you just read a book that just showed me hundreds and millions of these natives were killed and died. And that's just killed. What about the disease?
Yeah.
So how are you telling me the majority, and the book you just read said hundreds of thousands of Spaniards and Edomites moved to this place? How are you telling me that the majority of Mexicans are Israelites? How do you prove that to them?
By their cultures and how they, I'll go to Romans.
Bible.
Romans 8 to 16.
12 tribes of Hebrews.
Romans 8, 16.
Manashah said Daniel 2:43.
No. What does Daniel 2 and 43 have to do with the beast?
Intermingle the seed.
Whereas thou sawest.
No, I know what that's. Nah. What is that? The clay in the no.
Who was that?
It's in the Bible, man.
Last said the curses. Tazalia said Ezekiel 36:10.
Read Ezekiel 36:10. What that said?
And I will multiply men upon you, all the house of Israel, even all of it, and the city shall be inhabited, and the waste shall be.
That's
talking about.
that's end days. That's end day prophecy. It's good. Go to Exodus. Huh? Exodus 1:12. That which has been is that which shall be. There's no new thing under the sun. We're in modern day Egypt, right?
And yours always multitude. Those that get killed off.
You can't be, it's very simple. The scriptures y'all pulled are scriptures after this one. With the question I asked specifically, like for instance, he said Romans 8:16. That's the go-to after this one, after the curses. After you go here. Exodus 1:12. Whoever can read it real quick.
This is Exodus chapter 1 and verse 12. But the more they afflicted them,
the more they afflict us. Go ahead.
The more they multiplied and grew.
The more we multiply and grow. You got the number one killing for quote unquote African Americans is abortion. But they continue to, like, they keep growing. It's the same thing with every tribe. The more and more you persecute us, guess what the Lord is gonna make us grow and make us grow and make us grow to the point there's more of us than more of them. That happened in Exodus. The same thing is happening now in modern day Egypt.
I know that scripture always straight because my dad used to quote David said, used to say, look, I was
right. Right.
That's a good question. Who got Zechariah 1:15?
The book of Zechariah, chapter 1, verse 15. And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at east. For I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction.
Right. So the Lord isn't happy at how they mishandled our captivity. They had the green light, but they took it way far left. Right? And last precept, Jeremiah 5:19.
Going back.
If you got something.
This is Jeremiah chapter 5 and verse 19. And it shall come to pass when ye shall say, wherefore doeth the Lord our God all these things unto us? Then thou shalt answer them, like as ye have forsaken me, and served strange gods in your land, so shall ye serve strangers in a land that is not yours.
Right. You're asking, oh, why is this happening to us? Why did this happen to us? Because you didn't observe to do what's right according to the Lord. So now we're going to be enslaved to other people, and they're going to do what they want with us. But but the Lord is still displeased because he allowed us to be in captivity, but they overdid it times a million. So they're going to get their judgment too. It finally clicked to me, man, when I was like, yo, double. I saw that was a mystery for me. Like, yo, what does that even look like? I get it now. I can see it. That's what I really wanted. I want to see it in my head. I can see it now.
What is that called? They talk about how
So,
people were saying that we wanted reparations. That reparations came in.
I want reparations.
I mean, I spend it.
I'm not talking about money. I want reparations
Oh,
for
yeah.
everything they did.
There's no way that they could. There's
Slaves.
no amount of money they could give
Mhm.
to make up for it. Yeah.
Facts.
right,
I mean, if the money they give is ours anyway.
right. Yeah, we were anyways.
I'm gonna just go to one for some encouragement. Last precept. Jeremiah 30 and 16. Whoever gets it first.
Skipped it a lot, man. I know y'all getting tired.
You got part two.
Yeah.
I will. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured.
All they that devour thee shall be devoured.
That's a hell of a lot of people.
Go ahead.
And all thine adversaries, every one of them.
Every what?
Every one of them.
Every one. That's the spirit. We said at the same time. Listen, you gotta understand something, right? If a heathen gets salvation, that means the Lord loved them more than us. Let me explain. Righteous men went through that. Righteous men were in captivity. Our people. Daniel was a righteous man, right? Was he in captivity?
Yeah.
Christ was a righteous man. The righteous of righteous. Was he in captivity? So you're telling me because an Edomite is a good guy, and because he has faith, and he cleaves onto Israel at the skirt.
And make a nice slave. That's it.
Are you telling me he has salvation?
Hell
That means God loves them more than
no.
us.
And where does he have salvation from?
That means God loves him more than us. Because, I know I put all your prophets into captivity. I know I did.
Right.
But this Edomite was cool.
And what is he being redeemed from?
No.
He's given all the fatness of the
He's
earth,
still gonna give
all the
you-
power, and then he gets.
Can I tell y'all something? With everything I was passed down in generations, what we do, blessings, stuff, to whom it was given to, it was their intent to do so. Don't let that bother you out.
Right.
That's a fact. Read the precept from the top again, and then we're gonna finish it.
30:16.
Mhm.
Jeremiah 30:16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them.
Every one of them. Go ahead.
Shall go into
They're
captivity,
gonna go into slavery, y'all. Go ahead.
and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil,
Mhm.
and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey.
See that?
Get for what?
A prey.
You see that? Every single one. Every human being on earth outside of the nation of Israel will go into subjection,
That's a fact.
will bow down to us,
All praises.
and they will be in captivity. That's what's gonna happen, man. That's what's gonna happen. There's gonna be no good guy. He was a good Edomite, he was a good Asian, he was a good Hamite. Every single one of them, it's gonna be your hell while it's our heaven.
That's right.
Yo, real fast, man.
Just
I didn't get to go into a lot of this lesson. I know it's late, and I know a lot of brothers tired. I did promise that I was gonna try to get this out by 9. It's 11. I'm Salakia for that, but I tried to, man. I really shortened it a lot down, yo. But I hope that everybody received, you know what I'm saying, the word. Hopefully it was edifying, man, or you know what I'm saying. So, but with that, let's just rise and face the east.
This is Psalms chapter 100. Make a joyful noise unto Yahweh, all ye lands. Serve Yahweh with gladness, and come before his presence with singing. Know ye that Yahweh is the power. It is he that made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people, and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, and bless his name. For Yahweh is good, and his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations. In the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashem YHWH, the water from Yad. Amen.
Amen.
Yo, Shalom Israel. Go check out GADAL GABARYAM's very own PANAH. Subscribe to PANAH Productions on YouTube right now. Go stream his album Thou Art on all digital platforms, including SoundCloud. Bump that F the world, stubborn, juice, when we dance and more. Look out for his upcoming album, a genre called Life. Also, go check out the young Lord, QUON SALVATORE, with his latest album release, Story of a Soldier. And hailing from Florida, GANAN YASHARAHLA. Go stream his latest music video, Save Me, and subscribe to his YouTube channel. And last but definitely not least, subscribe to the GABAR MALAK's channel, hailing from Kansas City, for hot truth music videos inspired by his intellectual visuals. All links at the bottom. Shalom.